In the depths of the Aegean Sea, off the Greek island of Antikythera, sponge divers in 1901 made a discovery that would challenge everything historians thought they knew about ancient technological capabilities. Among the corroded bronze fragments pulled from a Roman-era shipwreck lay what appeared to be a complex mechanical device, its intricate gear work unlike anything the ancient world was supposed to possess. The Antikythera mechanism, as it came to be known, represents perhaps the most compelling piece of evidence that our ancestors possessed knowledge far beyond what conventional archaeology attributes to them. X-ray analysis revealed a sophisticated analog computer containing at least 37 meshing bronze gears, capable of predicting solar and lunar eclipses, tracking the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games, and calculating the positions of known planets with remarkable accuracy. The device's complexity rivals that of 18th century clockwork, yet it was constructed around 100 BC, nearly 1,500 years before similar mechanical computers appeared in medieval Europe. The precision of its bronze gears, some containing as many as 223 teeth, required manufacturing techniques that historians insist were impossible for ancient Greek craftsmen to achieve. What makes the Antikythera mechanism particularly unsettling is not just its advanced construction, but the astronomical knowledge it embodies. The device incorporates the Metonic cycle, a 19-year period after which lunar phases repeat on the same calendar dates, and the Saros cycle, an 18-year period governing eclipse patterns. These calculations require centuries of systematic observation and mathematical sophistication that supposedly didn't exist in the ancient Mediterranean. Even more puzzling, the mechanism tracks the synodic periods of all 5 planets visible to the naked eye with an accuracy that suggests access to astronomical data spanning millennia. The bronze fragments also reveal knowledge of the anomalistic month, the time between successive lunar perigees, calculated to within hours of modern measurements. This level of precision implies not just casual sky-watching, but systematic record-keeping across generations, possibly involving instruments and methodologies that have left no other archaeological trace. The question becomes unavoidable. Where did this knowledge originate, and why does it appear in isolation, like a technological island in a sea of supposedly primitive ancient craftsmanship? Similar anomalies emerge when examining other out-of-place artifacts scattered across the ancient world. The Baghdad Battery, discovered in 1936 near the Iraqi capital, consists of a clay jar containing a copper cylinder and iron rod that, when filled with an acidic solution, produces an electric current. Dating to approximately 250 BC, these galvanic cells predate Alessandro Volta's first battery by over 2,000 years. While mainstream archaeology dismisses them as storage vessels, the specific combination of materials and their arrangement follows principles of electrochemistry that weren't formally understood until the 19th century. In the mountains of Peru, the Nazca Lines stretch across nearly 500 square kilometers of desert, forming geometric patterns and massive animal figures visible only from considerable altitude. Created between 500 BC and 500 AD, these geoglyphs demonstrate not only advanced surveying techniques, but an understanding of large-scale perspective that suggests aerial observation capabilities. The lines themselves maintain mathematical precision across distances of up to 30 kilometers, requiring surveying skills that supposedly didn't exist in pre-Columbian South America. The precision becomes even more remarkable when examining the astronomical alignments embedded within megalithic structures worldwide. At Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey, massive stone pillars arranged in circular enclosures predate Stonehenge by approximately 6,000 years. Carbon dating places the site's construction at around 9,500 BC, making it older than agriculture itself according to conventional timelines. Yet the monument's builders possessed knowledge of celestial mechanics that rivals modern astronomical understanding. The pillars at Göbekli Tepe align with specific stellar configurations, particularly the constellation Cygnus, which would have appeared directly overhead around 10,000 BC due to precession. The site's circular enclosures track the movement of celestial bodies with mathematical precision, incorporating calculations for the Earth's axial wobble that takes 25,920 years to complete one full cycle. This knowledge of precession wasn't officially discovered until Hipparchus documented it in the 2nd century BC, yet Göbekli Tepe's builders incorporated it into their monument's design thousands of years earlier. The sophistication extends to the site's construction techniques. The largest pillars weigh up to 50 tons and were quarried from bedrock using tools that leave cut marks inconsistent with copper or stone implements available during the supposed construction period. The precision of the carving, particularly the detailed animal reliefs covering the pillars, suggests advanced metalworking capabilities that mainstream archaeology places several millennia later in human development. At Stonehenge, the astronomical alignments reveal equally impossible knowledge. The monument's primary axis aligns with the summer solstice sunrise and winter solstice sunset, but the precision extends far beyond simple seasonal markers. The heel-stone's position calculates the 18.6-year lunar standstill cycle, while the 56 Aubrey holes around the monument's perimeter track the 56-year cycle of eclipse prediction. The builders incorporated knowledge of the moon's complex orbital mechanics, including its varying declination angles and the subtle gravitational influences that affect its apparent motion across the sky. The engineering challenges of Stonehenge's construction compound the mystery. The massive trilithons, some weighing over 40 tons, were shaped and positioned with tolerances measured in millimetres. The mortise and tenon joints connecting the lintels to the uprights demonstrate advanced stoneworking techniques, while the subtle curvature built into the lintels compensates for optical illusions that would make straight stones appear to sag. This level of architectural sophistication suggests not just advanced tools, but deep understanding of human visual perception and structural engineering principles. The Giza Pyramid complex presents perhaps the most compelling evidence of impossible ancient knowledge. The Great Pyramid's base perimeter, when divided by its height, yields pi to an accuracy of 99.98%. The monument's orientation aligns with true north to within 3/60ths of a degree, a precision that requires advanced surveying instruments and knowledge of magnetic declination. The pyramid's internal chambers align with specific stars, particularly the constellation Orion, which the ancient Egyptians associated with Osiris. More remarkably, the three pyramids of Giza mirror the arrangement of Orion's belt stars as they appeared around 10,500 BC, not during the 4th dynasty when the monuments were supposedly constructed. This correlation, known as the Orion correlation theory, suggests the builders possessed detailed knowledge of stellar positions across millennia, accounting for precession's effects on star positions over thousands of years. The precision of ancient maps presents another category of anomalous knowledge. The Piri Reis map of 1513, compiled by Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis from earlier source maps, depicts the coastlines of South America and Antarctica with startling accuracy. The Antarctic coastline shown on the map matches the continent's actual geography beneath its ice sheet, as confirmed by seismic surveys conducted during the International Geophysical Year of 1957 to 1958. The implications prove staggering. Antarctica's coastline has been hidden beneath ice for at least 6,000 years, with some regions ice-covered for much longer. Yet the Piri Reis map shows rivers, mountains, and coastal details that match modern subglacial topography with remarkable precision. The map's Antarctic section includes the Antarctic Peninsula, accurately positioned relative to the Drake Passage, and shows what appears to be the Transantarctic Mountains, correctly placed in the continent's interior. Piri Reis himself claimed his map was compiled from ancient sources, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. The mathematical projections used in the map's construction demonstrate advanced cartographic knowledge, particularly the understanding of spherical trigonometry, required to accurately represent curved Earth surfaces on flat maps. These techniques weren't formally developed until the 16th century, yet they appear in source materials Piri Reis claimed were centuries older. The Orontes Phineas map of 1531 shows Antarctica as an ice-free continent, complete with rivers, mountains, and coastal plains. The continent's shape and proportions match modern knowledge with uncanny accuracy, including the correct positioning of the South Pole within the continental landmass. Like the Piri Reis map, the Orontes Phineas chart shows geographical details that have been hidden beneath ice for millennia, raising fundamental questions about who mapped these regions and when. Ancient metallurgical achievements present equally puzzling anomalies. The Delhi Iron Pillar, standing in India's Qutb complex, has resisted corrosion for over 1,600 years despite exposure to monsoon rains and Delhi's industrial pollution. Metallurgical analysis reveals an iron purity of 99.72%, achieved through techniques that weren't developed in Europe until the 19th century. The pillar's phosphorus content, approximately 1%, creates a protective oxide layer that prevents rust formation, a metallurgical principle not understood until modern materials science. The pillar's construction required maintaining temperatures exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius, while working with over 6 tons of iron, techniques that demanded advanced furnace design and precise temperature control. The seamless forging suggests manufacturing capabilities that mainstream archaeology doesn't attribute to 4th century Indian metallurgists. Yet there the pillar stands, its impossible preservation serving as daily testimony to lost technological knowledge. In pre-Columbian South America, metallurgical anomalies appear throughout ancient Peruvian and Bolivian sites. Gold-platinum alloys found in La Tolita culture, artifacts demonstrate sophisticated alloying techniques, considering platinum's melting point of 1,768 degrees Celsius. Pre-Columbian smiths somehow achieved temperatures and controlled atmospheric conditions necessary to work with metals that European metallurgists couldn't process until the 18th century. The precision of these ancient alloys extends beyond mere temperature control. Spectroscopic analysis reveals controlled ratios of gold, platinum, and copper that optimize specific properties, electrical conductivity, corrosion resistance, and mechanical strength. These metallurgical choices suggest not just advanced techniques, but deep understanding of atomic-level material properties that modern science attributes to quantum mechanical principles discovered in the 20th century. The metallurgical mysteries of ancient civilizations pale in comparison to the enigmas embedded within humanity's earliest written records. In the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia, archaeologists have uncovered hundreds of thousands of cuneiform tablets that challenge conventional understanding of human origins and early civilization. These clay documents, dating back over 5,000 years, contain accounts that read less like mythology and more like historical records of contact with beings from beyond Earth. The Sumerians, who appeared in southern Mesopotamia around 3,500 BC, left behind detailed accounts of their gods, the Anunnaki, described consistently as entities who descended from the heavens to establish civilization on Earth. The Enuma Elish, Babylon's creation epic preserved on 7 clay tablets, discovered in the ruins of Ashurbanipal's library in Nineveh, provides the most comprehensive account of these celestial beings. Unlike other creation myths that speak in abstract terms about cosmic forces, the Enuma Elish reads like a historical chronicle, complete with specific genealogies, technological descriptions, and detailed accounts of planetary formation. The text describes Marduk, chief of the Anunnaki, engaging in cosmic battle with Tiamat, a primordial entity representing chaos in the waters of creation. What distinguishes the Enuma Elish from other creation narratives is its sophisticated understanding of planetary mechanics. The text describes the formation of Earth through cosmic collision, with Marduk splitting Tiamat in half to create the heavens and the earth. This account bears striking resemblance to the giant impact hypothesis, the modern scientific theory explaining the moon's formation through a collision between early Earth and a Mars-sized object called Theia. The Sumerian version includes details about debris fields, orbital mechanics, and the establishment of celestial order that align remarkably with contemporary astrophysical models. The tablets describe the Anunnaki as tall beings who possessed advanced knowledge of astronomy, metallurgy, and genetics. According to these accounts, they established cities, taught agriculture, and created a hybrid workforce by mixing their essence with that of primitive humans. The cuneiform texts consistently refer to these beings as coming from the heavens and describe their arrival in craft that blazed across the sky like fire. The Sumerian term for these vehicles, Mu, appears throughout the tablets, in context suggesting sophisticated aerial technology rather than mythological symbolism. Zecharia Sitchin's controversial translations of these cuneiform tablets in the late 20th century brought the Anunnaki narrative into modern discourse. Sitchin, who spent decades studying ancient Mesopotamian languages, claimed the tablets described a 12th celestial body in our solar system called Nibiru, home planet of the Anunnaki. According to his translations, Nibiru follows an extremely elliptical orbit that brings it into the inner solar system every 3,600 years. During these periodic approaches, the Anunnaki would travel to Earth to oversee their mining operations and check on their human creations. The tablets describe Nibiru as a massive planet, several times larger than Earth, with an orbital path that takes it far beyond the outer planets before swinging back through the inner solar system. Sitchin's translations suggest this planet's gravitational influence was responsible for various catastrophic events in Earth's history, including the Great Flood described in numerous ancient texts. The 600-year orbital cycle corresponds to the Sumerian unit of time called a share, which appears frequently in their astronomical calculations and historical chronologies. Critics of Sitchin's work argue that his translations take liberties with cuneiform interpretation, but independent analysis of the tablets reveals consistent astronomical knowledge that challenges conventional understanding of ancient capabilities. The Sumerians possessed detailed knowledge of planetary periods, eclipse cycles, and stellar positions that required centuries of systematic observation. Their mathematical system, based on the number 60, provided the foundation for modern time measurement and angular calculation, suggesting access to sophisticated astronomical data that enabled precise celestial mechanics calculations. The Sumerian king list, discovered on multiple tablets and prisms throughout Mesopotamia, presents perhaps the most puzzling aspect of these ancient records. This document chronicles the reigns of Sumerian rulers from the beginning of civilization, but the chronology it presents defies rational explanation. The earliest kings are credited with reigns lasting tens of thousands of years, with some rulers supposedly governing for over 40,000 years. Alulim, the first king of Eridu, allegedly ruled for 28,800 years, while Dumuzid of Bad Tibira reigned for 36,000 years. The king list makes a clear distinction between antediluvian rulers and those who came after the Great Flood. Pre-flood kings are consistently attributed with impossibly long lifespans, while post-flood rulers have more conventional reign lengths measured in decades rather than millennia. This transition occurs abruptly in the chronology, with no gradual decrease in lifespans, but rather a sudden shift to normal human longevity. The text states explicitly that the flood swept over, and after the flood had swept over, when the kingship was lowered from heaven, the kingship was in Kish. The mathematical precision of these enormous numbers suggests they weren't arbitrary mythological constructs, but represented actual time measurements using different calculation systems. When analysed using the Sumerian numerical base of 60, many of these figures correspond to astronomical cycles, particularly the precession of equinoxes and various planetary periods. This correlation implies the early rulers' lifespans might have been calculated using celestial time rather than terrestrial years, possibly reflecting the extended lifespans of the Anunnaki themselves. Archaeological evidence supports the sudden appearance of advanced Sumerian civilization without apparent developmental stages. Around 3500 BC, sophisticated urban centers emerged in Mesopotamia with fully developed writing systems, complex irrigation networks, and advanced metallurgical techniques. The Sumerians possessed knowledge of the wheel, the sailboat, and the plough, technologies that appeared simultaneously rather than evolving gradually over centuries. Their cities featured elaborate temple complexes called ziggurats, massive stepped pyramids that served as both religious centers and astronomical observatories. The Sumerians' agricultural innovations prove equally mysterious. They developed sophisticated irrigation systems that transformed the arid Mesopotamian landscape into fertile farmland, but these weren't simple canal networks. The irrigation infrastructure included complex locks, weirs, and water management systems that required advanced hydraulic engineering knowledge. The precision of these systems suggests understanding of fluid dynamics, soil chemistry, and crop rotation principles that supposedly weren't developed until much later in human history. Sumerian metallurgy presents similar anomalies. Archaeological sites reveal evidence of bronze working, silver refining, and gold purification techniques that appeared fully developed without transitional phases. The Sumerians produced bronze alloys with precisely controlled tin content, achieving optimal hardness and workability ratios that required sophisticated understanding of metallurgical chemistry. They also developed techniques for creating electrum, a gold-silver alloy, with consistent composition ratios that modern analysis shows were deliberately controlled rather than naturally occurring. The cuneiform tablets describe the Anunnaki as master geneticists who created humans through biological manipulation. The Epic of Atrahasis provides detailed accounts of this creation process, describing how the gods mixed clay with the blood of a slain god to create the first humans. While mainstream scholarship interprets this as metaphorical creation mythology, the tablets contain surprisingly specific biological terminology. The Sumerian word tayit, typically translated as clay, also carries connotations of living matter or biological material, while dam refers to blood, but also encompasses genetic essence or life force. The tablets describe a process involving multiple attempts at human creation, with early versions proving unsatisfactory before achieving the desired result. This trial and error methodology resembles modern genetic engineering approaches more than divine creation through supernatural means. The accounts include references to combining different biological materials, adjusting proportions, and refining techniques across multiple generations of created beings. Sumerian medical texts demonstrate advanced anatomical knowledge that shouldn't have existed in ancient Mesopotamia. Clay tablets from medical archives describe surgical procedures, pharmaceutical preparations, and diagnostic techniques that reveal sophisticated understanding of human physiology. The tablets catalogue symptoms, treatments, and prognoses for various conditions with clinical precision that rivals modern medical documentation. They describe the circulatory system, nervous system functions, and reproductive biology with accuracy that suggests direct anatomical study rather than theoretical speculation. The astronomical knowledge preserved in Sumerian tablets extends far beyond basic sky observation. The tablets contain detailed ephemeris, calculations tracking planetary positions across multiple centuries, eclipse prediction tables accurate to within hours, and stellar catalogues that include stars invisible to the naked eye. The Muldot-Appin series, a comprehensive astronomical compendium, describes the heliacal risings of stars, planetary retrograde motions, and complex lunar calculations that required mathematical sophistication, supposedly beyond ancient capabilities. These astronomical texts include references to celestial bodies that weren't officially discovered until the modern era. Sumerian tablets describe the outer planets with remarkable accuracy, including details about their orbital periods, relative sizes, and distinctive characteristics. They refer to Uranus and Neptune by specific names and provide orbital data that closely matches modern calculations. The tablets also describe various moons of the outer planets, celestial objects that remained invisible until telescopic observation began in the 17th century. The Sumerian pantheon itself reflects sophisticated understanding of cosmic hierarchy and celestial mechanics. Each major deity corresponds to specific astronomical phenomena, but these associations go far beyond simple star worship. The tablets describe complex relationships between planetary positions and terrestrial events, incorporating knowledge of gravitational influences, tidal effects, and electromagnetic interactions that weren't formally understood until modern astrophysics developed. The precision of these correlations suggests access to observational data spanning millennia, possibly collected by beings with extended lifespans and advanced instrumentation. The tablets also contain detailed genealogies of the Anunnaki that read like historical records rather than mythological narratives. These family trees include specific relationships, succession patterns, and territorial assignments that maintain internal consistency across thousands of tablets from different time periods and locations. The genealogies describe intermarriage between different Anunnaki lineages, political conflicts over succession rights, and territorial disputes that resulted in various catastrophic events affecting Earth. The genealogical records preserved in Mesopotamian cuneiform tablets find their most detailed parallel in the apocryphal Book of Enoch, a text that expands dramatically on the brief biblical mention of the Nephilim in Genesis 6. The Enochian account describes a group of 200 angels called the Watchers who descended to Mount Hermon around 3000 BC and took human wives, producing hybrid offspring known as the Nephilim. What makes this narrative particularly compelling is not its supernatural elements, but rather the precise geographical locations, specific names, and detailed technological knowledge attributed to these beings. The Book of Enoch identifies the leader of the Watchers as Semjaza, accompanied by 19 other named entities including Azazel, Amaros, Barakel, and Kokabeel. Each Watcher is credited with teaching specific skills to humanity. Azazel instructed humans in metallurgy and weapon making. Semjaza taught enchantments and root cutting. Amaros revealed the resolving of enchantments, and Barakel taught astrology. The text provides a systematic catalogue of technological transfer that reads more like a curriculum for advancing a primitive civilization than a religious allegory about fallen angels. The geographical specificity of the Enochian account proves particularly intriguing. Mount Hermon, where the Watchers allegedly descended, sits at the intersection of modern-day Lebanon, Syria, and Israel. Archaeological surveys of the region have revealed numerous megalithic structures, including massive stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons that were somehow transported and precisely positioned on the mountain slopes. The site contains the remains of ancient temples dedicated to Baal Hermon, suggesting the location held special significance for millennia before the Enochian texts were compiled. The Watchers' offspring, the Nephilim, are described as giants of enormous stature and strength, who consumed vast quantities of food and eventually turned to cannibalism when normal sustenance proved insufficient. The text states these beings grew to heights of 450 feet, though this measurement likely reflects symbolic rather than literal dimensions. More significantly, the Nephilim are credited with advanced knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering that they used to construct massive cities and monuments. The account describes their ability to move enormous stones, manipulate metals, and create sophisticated weapons that gave them dominance over normal humans. Mesopotamian texts corroborate many elements of the Enochian narrative through their descriptions of the Igigi, a group of younger Anunnaki who served the elder gods but eventually rebelled against their assigned duties. The Atrahasis epic describes how the Igigi grew weary of their labour in the gold mines and demanded relief from their celestial superiors. This rebellion led to the creation of humans as a substitute workforce, but also resulted in unauthorized breeding between the Igigi and human women, producing hybrid offspring with extended lifespans and supernatural abilities. The Mesopotamian accounts described these hybrid beings as the Apkallu, 7 sages who appeared before the Great Flood to teach civilization to humanity. Unlike the destructive Nephilim of Enochian tradition, the Apkallu are portrayed as beneficent teachers who established the foundations of Sumerian culture. However, both traditions agree that these beings possessed knowledge far beyond normal human capacity, and that their presence on Earth was connected to a celestial hierarchy of advanced beings who maintained ongoing contact with terrestrial affairs. Egyptian texts provide another perspective on these sky-descended entities through their accounts of the Neteru, divine beings who ruled Egypt during the Zep Tepi, or First Time. The Turin Papyrus and the Abydos King List both reference this primordial period when gods walked among humans and established the foundations of Egyptian civilization. The Neteru are described as tall beings with elongated skulls, advanced technological capabilities and lifespans measured in thousands of years rather than decades. The Egyptian accounts describe the Neteru as arriving in celestial boats that cross the sky like stars, establishing their primary settlement at Heliopolis, the city of the sun. Archaeological investigations at Heliopolis have revealed massive stone blocks, some weighing over 500 tons, that were quarried from sites hundreds of miles away and transported with precision that defies explanation using conventional ancient Egyptian construction techniques. The site's layout incorporates sophisticated astronomical alignments that track stellar positions across millennia, suggesting the builders possessed detailed knowledge of precession and long-term celestial mechanics. The pyramid texts, carved into the walls of 5th and 6th dynasty pyramids, contain detailed instructions for the pharaoh's journey to join the Neteru in the afterlife. These texts describe technological processes rather than spiritual metaphors, including references to ascending in fire, travelling among the stars, and joining the imperishable ones who dwell in the circumpolar region of the sky. The instructions include specific astronomical coordinates, stellar timing requirements, and technological preparations that suggest actual space travel rather than symbolic spiritual transformation. Hindu scriptures provide perhaps the most technologically detailed accounts of sky gods through their descriptions of the devas and their aerial vehicles called vimanas. The Ramayana describes Ravana's Pushpaka Vimana as a large aircraft capable of carrying multiple passengers across vast distances at incredible speeds. The text provides specific details about the vehicle's construction, including its golden exterior, multiple levels, and propulsion system that generated tremendous heat and light. The Vimana could hover motionless in the air, accelerate instantly to high speeds, and maneuver with precision that exceeded the capabilities of any earthbound transportation. The Mahabharata expands on these technological descriptions through its account of the Kurukshetra War, where various factions deployed advanced weapons and aircraft in combat. The text describes Brahma-astras, weapons that could destroy entire armies and render large areas uninhabitable for generations. The effects described in these accounts bear striking resemblance to nuclear warfare, including blinding flashes of light, mushroom-shaped clouds, hair and nails falling out from affected individuals, and contamination of food and water sources that persisted long after the initial destruction. The Vaimanika Shastra, a Sanskrit text allegedly composed by the sage Bharadvaja, provides technical specifications for constructing and operating various types of vimanas. The document describes different aircraft designs optimized for specific purposes: reconnaissance vehicles capable of becoming invisible, cargo transports for moving heavy materials, and combat craft equipped with various weapon systems. The text includes details about metallurgy, propulsion systems, and navigation equipment that incorporate principles of physics not formally understood until the modern era. The Hindu accounts describe the Devas as beings from other worlds who established bases on Earth and interacted extensively with human civilizations. The Puranas provide genealogies of these beings that span hundreds of thousands of years, describing their various incarnations, territorial assignments, and ongoing conflicts with opposing factions called asuras. These narratives maintain internal consistency across multiple texts compiled over centuries, suggesting they preserve historical memories rather than purely mythological constructs. Greek mythology contributes another perspective through its accounts of the Titans, primordial beings who ruled before the Olympian gods and possessed advanced knowledge of astronomy, metallurgy, and natural sciences. Prometheus, one of the most significant Titans, is credited with stealing fire from the gods and teaching humans various technologies including metalworking, mathematics, and medicine. The myth describes Prometheus as being punished for this unauthorized technology transfer, chained to a rock where an eagle daily devoured his liver, which regenerated each night. The Titanomachy, the war between the Titans and Olympians, is described in terms that suggest advanced technological warfare rather than supernatural combat. The conflict involved weapons that shook the earth, split mountains, and altered the landscape permanently. The defeated Titans were imprisoned in Tartarus, described as a place beneath the earth surrounded by bronze walls and accessible only through specific technological means. The descriptions of this underground realm include references to artificial lighting, controlled atmospheres, and structural engineering that exceeds ancient Greek capabilities. The Greek accounts describe the Titans as beings of enormous stature with advanced knowledge of natural sciences. Atlas, condemned to hold up the heavens, is portrayed as a master astronomer who understood the mechanics of celestial motion and could calculate the positions of stars across vast time periods. The punishment of supporting the sky represents his role as keeper of astronomical knowledge, rather than literal physical burden. The myth preserves memory of beings who possessed sophisticated understanding of cosmic mechanics and were responsible for maintaining astronomical observations across generations. Norse mythology presents similar themes through its descriptions of the Aesir, divine beings who arrived from Asgard to establish civilization in Midgard. The prose Edda describes the Aesir as tall, powerful beings with advanced knowledge of metallurgy, agriculture, and warfare. They possessed weapons and tools that far exceeded normal human capabilities, including Thor's hammer Mjolnir, which could level mountains and return automatically to its wielder's hand after being thrown. The Norse accounts describe Asgard as being connected to Midgard by Bifrost, a rainbow bridge that enabled travel between the realms. The descriptions of this bridge include references to multiple colours, structural stability that could support the weight of the gods, and the ability to appear and disappear as needed. These characteristics suggest advanced transportation technology, rather than purely supernatural phenomena. The bridge's guardian, Heimdall, is described as having enhanced senses that could detect activity across vast distances, possibly representing advanced surveillance capabilities. The Ragnarok prophecy describes a final conflict that will destroy the existing world order and create a new Earth. The account includes detailed descriptions of environmental catastrophe, technological warfare, and the survival of select individuals who will repopulate the world. The precision of these predictions, including specific astronomical events and environmental changes, suggests access to long-term historical patterns rather than purely prophetic vision. Cross-cultural flood narratives provide perhaps the most compelling evidence for shared memories of catastrophic events involving divine intervention. The Epic of Gilgamesh describes Utnapishtim receiving detailed instructions from the god Ea for constructing an ark to survive a global deluge. The specifications include precise dimensions, construction materials, and loading procedures that read like technical documentation rather than mythological narrative. The ark's dimensions, when converted to modern measurements, yield a vessel with optimal stability and cargo capacity for surviving oceanic conditions. The biblical account of Noah's flood provides similar technical details, including the ark's construction specifications, the duration of the deluge, and the systematic preservation of animal species. The narrative describes a 40-day period of continuous rainfall followed by 150 days of flooding, with specific dates provided for various stages of the disaster. The precision of these chronological details suggests the account preserves historical records rather than purely allegorical material. Hindu texts describe a similar global flood in the Matsya Purana, where Vishnu incarnates as a fish to save Manu and preserve life on Earth. The account included specific details about the flood's duration, the construction of a survival vessel, and the systematic preservation of seeds and animals needed to restart civilization. The text describes Manu receiving detailed instructions from Vishnu about navigation, food preservation, and post-flood reconstruction that demonstrates sophisticated understanding of survival technology and environmental restoration. Native American flood traditions, preserved among dozens of tribes across North America, describe similar catastrophic events involving divine beings who warned select individuals and provided technological assistance for survival. The Hopi tradition describes the emergence from previous worlds that were destroyed by flood, fire, and ice, with survivors being guided to safety by the Kachinas, divine beings who descended from the sky. These accounts include specific geographical references to underground chambers, high mountain refuges, and technological assistance that enabled human survival during global catastrophes. Australian Aboriginal traditions describe the Dreamtime, when ancestral beings shaped the landscape and established the foundations of human civilization. These beings are described as arriving from the sky and possessing advanced knowledge of astronomy, geology, and biology. The songlines that preserve these traditions include precise geographical information, astronomical observations, and technological knowledge that has been transmitted orally for tens of thousands of years. The consistency of these traditions across isolated tribal groups suggests they preserve actual historical memories rather than purely mythological constructs. The global consistency of flood narratives and sky god traditions points toward a shared catastrophic event that may have originated far beyond Earth's atmosphere. While conventional archaeology places humanity's origins firmly on our planet, mounting evidence suggests our species' true genesis may lie 140 million miles away on Mars, the red planet that has captivated human imagination since ancient civilizations first tracked its crimson wandering across the night sky. The possibility that Mars once harbored advanced civilization and that survivors of a planetary catastrophe eventually migrated to Earth provides a framework for understanding the technological anomalies and impossible knowledge preserved in ancient texts worldwide. The most compelling visual evidence for Martian civilization emerged in 1976, when NASA's Viking 1 orbiter captured frame 35A72, an image of the Cydonia region showing what appeared to be a massive humanoid face carved into the Martian surface. The formation, measuring approximately 2.5 kilometers in length and 2 kilometers in width, displayed bilateral symmetry, defined facial features, and proportions consistent with artificial construction rather than natural geological processes. The face's orientation aligned precisely with the Martian cardinal directions, while its positioning relative to other nearby formations suggested deliberate urban planning rather than random erosion patterns. High-resolution imaging from subsequent Mars missions revealed additional structures throughout the Cydonia complex that challenged conventional explanations of natural formation. The D&M Pyramid, named after researchers Vincent DiPietro and Gregory Molinar, exhibits five-sided geometry with angles that correspond to specific mathematical relationships found in Earth's ancient monuments. The pyramid's base angles measure 19.5 degrees, a figure that appears repeatedly in tetrahedral geometry and corresponds to energy upwelling points on planetary bodies. This same angle appears in the positioning of major volcanic features on Earth, Mars, and other planets, suggesting knowledge of planetary energy dynamics incorporated into the monument's design. The city complex, located southwest of the face, contains multiple geometric formations, arranged in patterns that mirror ancient urban centers on Earth. Geometric analysis reveals rectangular and pentagonal structures positioned according to mathematical relationships that optimize both defensive positioning and astronomical observation. The formations include what appear to be foundations for large buildings, defensive walls, and central plazas arranged according to principles found in terrestrial city planning from various ancient civilizations. The fortress formation, positioned strategically on elevated terrain overlooking the Cydonia complex, displays architectural features consistent with military installations. The structure includes multiple levels, defensive walls with specific thickness ratios, and positioning that provides optimal sightlines across the surrounding terrain. The formation's construction incorporates angles and proportions that appear throughout ancient fortifications on Earth, suggesting shared architectural knowledge between Martian and terrestrial builders. Spectroscopic analysis of the Cydonia formations reveals mineral compositions that differ significantly from surrounding natural terrain. The structures contain higher concentrations of crystalline materials, metallic oxides, and composite substances that suggest artificial construction rather than natural geological processes. The mineral signatures indicate exposure to extreme heat during formation, possibly from advanced construction techniques involving high-temperature material processing. These compositional anomalies extend throughout the complex, creating distinct boundaries between artificial structures and natural landscape features. Fractal analysis of the face formation reveals mathematical relationships that exceed the complexity typically found in natural geological features. The structure displays self-similar patterns at multiple scales, with smaller facial features mirroring the proportions of larger elements. This fractal organization suggests deliberate design incorporating advanced mathematical principles rather than random erosion processes. The precision of these relationships maintains consistency across resolution scales, from satellite imagery down to detailed surface features visible in high-resolution photographs. Mars' geological history provides compelling evidence for past habitability and the potential for advanced civilization. Orbital surveys have identified extensive river networks, lake beds, and ocean basins that indicate the planet once possessed abundant liquid water and a substantially thicker atmosphere. The northern plains show clear evidence of ancient shorelines, with sediment patterns and mineral deposits consistent with long-term oceanic conditions. The planet's southern highlands contain impact craters filled with sedimentary deposits that formed underwater, indicating sustained aquatic environments lasting millions of years. The presence of recurring slope lineae, dark streaks that appear seasonally on Martian slopes, suggests liquid water continues to flow on the planet's surface under specific temperature and pressure conditions. Spectroscopic analysis of these features reveals hydrated salts and mineral compositions, consistent with briny water flows that occur during warmer periods. The locations and timing of these flows indicate subsurface water reservoirs that could have supported life for extended periods, even after the planet's surface became largely desiccated. Mars' atmospheric loss represents one of the most significant planetary catastrophes in solar system history. The planet's magnetic field collapsed approximately 4 billion years ago, leaving its atmosphere vulnerable to solar wind erosion. Without magnetic protection, charged particles from the Sun systematically stripped away the Martian atmosphere, reducing surface pressure to less than 1% of Earth's atmospheric density. This catastrophic atmospheric loss would have rendered the planet's surface uninhabitable for most life forms, potentially forcing any existing civilizations to seek refuge elsewhere in the solar system. The timing of Mars' atmospheric collapse corresponds to the Late Heavy Bombardment, a period of intense asteroid and comet impacts that affected all inner planets approximately 4.1 to 3.8 billion years ago. Evidence from Martian meteorites suggests the planet experienced multiple catastrophic impacts during this period, including events large enough to blast material completely off the planet's surface. These impacts would have accelerated atmospheric loss while creating conditions that made surface survival impossible for extended periods. Martian meteorites found on Earth provide direct evidence of the red planet's geological history and potential for past life. Over 200 meteorites of confirmed Martian origin have been recovered worldwide, blasted from the planet's surface by massive impacts, and eventually captured by Earth's gravity after millions of years in space. These samples contain mineral compositions, isotope ratios, and structural features that reveal details about Mars' past environmental conditions and geological processes. The isotopic signatures preserved in Martian meteorites indicate the planet once possessed a much thicker atmosphere with different chemical composition than present conditions. Nitrogen isotope ratios show evidence of atmospheric escape processes that removed lighter isotopes preferentially, leaving behind heavier variants in concentrations that confirm massive atmospheric loss. The preservation of these isotopic signatures in meteorite samples provides direct evidence for the catastrophic atmospheric erosion that transformed Mars from a potentially habitable world into the barren desert observed today. Carbon isotope ratios in Martian meteorites suggest the presence of organic processes that could indicate past biological activity. The ALH 84001 meteorite, discovered in Antarctica in 1984, contains carbonate minerals with isotopic signatures consistent with biological processes. While the interpretation of these signatures remains controversial, the isotopic patterns differ significantly from purely geological processes and align with biological carbon fixation mechanisms observed in terrestrial organisms. The meteorite also contains microscopic structures that resemble fossilized bacteria, though their biological origin remains disputed. The presence of complex organic molecules in multiple Martian meteorites indicates chemical processes that could support life under appropriate environmental conditions. These organic compounds include polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, amino acid precursors, and other carbon-based molecules that form the building blocks of biological systems. The preservation of these compounds through the violent ejection process and millions of years in space suggests they were originally present in substantial concentrations on Mars's surface. Ancient texts worldwide contain numerous references to celestial wars, planetary catastrophes, and migrations from dying worlds that may preserve historical memories of Mars' atmospheric collapse and subsequent exodus. The Mesopotamian Enuma Elish describes cosmic battles between planetary deities that resulted in the destruction of Tiamat and the formation of Earth's current configuration. The text includes specific details about debris fields, orbital disruptions, and the establishment of new celestial order following catastrophic planetary interactions. The account describes Marduk's battle with Tiamat in terms that suggest actual planetary collision, rather than purely mythological conflict. Tiamat is described as a primordial water world that was split in half, with one portion forming the Earth and the other becoming the asteroid belt. This narrative corresponds remarkably to modern theories about planetary formation and the late heavy bombardment period, when massive impacts reshaped the inner solar system. The text's description of debris fields and orbital adjustments following the collision aligns with astrophysical models of planetary system evolution during this catastrophic period. Hindu scriptures describe similar cosmic catastrophes through their accounts of cyclic world destruction and renewal. The Puranas describe multiple previous worlds that were destroyed by fire, flood, and cosmic warfare, with survivors migrating to establish new civilizations. The Kalpa cycles describe planetary periods lasting billions of years, with each cycle ending in catastrophic destruction, followed by renewal and repopulation. The precision of these timescales corresponds to geological and astronomical cycles that weren't formally understood until modern science developed detailed models of planetary evolution. The Mahabharata's description of the Kurukshetra war includes weapons that could destroy entire planets and render worlds uninhabitable for thousands of years. The Brahmastras are described as creating effects that match nuclear warfare, including radiation sickness, environmental contamination, and long-term genetic damage. However, some descriptions suggest even more devastating weapons, capable of destroying entire worlds, possibly representing planetary-scale catastrophes that forced mass migrations between celestial bodies. Egyptian texts describe the Zep Tepi as a time when the Neteru arrived from a distant world that had been destroyed by cosmic catastrophe. The pyramid texts include references to the pharaoh's journey to join the imperishable ones, who dwell among the circumpolar stars, suggesting knowledge of specific stellar destinations where survivors of planetary destruction had established new colonies. The texts describe technological processes for travelling between worlds, including detailed instructions for surviving the journey through space and establishing settlements on new planets. The Edfu building texts describe the original homeland of the Neteru as the Island of the Egg, a world that was destroyed by cosmic catastrophe and whose survivors travelled across space to establish civilization on Earth. The texts include specific geographical descriptions of this lost world, including references to red soil, thin atmosphere, and seasonal dust storms that match Mars' current environmental conditions. The accounts describe advanced technological capabilities that enable the survivors to traverse interplanetary distances and establish new settlements on Earth. Norse mythology preserves similar themes through its description of Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods that will destroy the existing world order. The account describes environmental catastrophe, technological warfare, and the survival of select individuals who will establish a new world following the destruction. The Prose Edda includes specific details about atmospheric changes, climate disruption, and the failure of traditional technologies that suggest memories of planetary-scale environmental collapse. The description of Fimbulwinter, a prolonged period of cold and darkness preceding Ragnarok, matches the environmental conditions that would result from atmospheric loss on a planetary scale. The account describes the failure of the sun to provide adequate warmth, the freezing of water sources, and the death of most living things. These conditions correspond to the environmental collapse that Mars experienced following its atmospheric loss, suggesting the Norse accounts preserve memories of planetary catastrophe witnessed by ancient observers. Native American traditions describe similar planetary catastrophes through their accounts of previous world ages that ended in cosmic destruction. Hopi traditions describe 4 previous worlds, each destroyed by different catastrophic events, including fire, ice, and flood. The accounts include specific descriptions of sky gods who warned select individuals about impending catastrophe and provided technological assistance for survival and migration to new worlds. The precision of these accounts, including specific astronomical observations and technological details, suggests they preserve historical memories rather than purely mythological constructs. The Hopi emergence stories describe survivors travelling through underground passages and across vast distances to reach their current homeland. The accounts include references to artificial lighting, controlled atmospheres, and technological assistance that enabled survival during planetary catastrophe. The descriptions of underground refuges correspond to the subsurface environments that might provide protection during atmospheric loss, while the accounts of long-distance migration match the interplanetary travel that would be necessary to escape a dying world. The mathematical precision found in ancient monuments worldwide may reflect astronomical knowledge preserved by Martian refugees who established new civilizations on Earth. The incorporation of Mars' orbital period, rotational characteristics, and geometric relationships into terrestrial monuments suggests direct knowledge of the red planet's physical properties. The builders of these monuments possessed detailed understanding of interplanetary mechanics that enabled them to encode Mars-specific astronomical data into their constructions. The 19.5-degree angle that appears repeatedly in ancient monuments corresponds to tetrahedral geometry and energy upwelling points on planetary bodies. This angle appears in the positioning of major volcanic features on both Earth and Mars, suggesting knowledge of planetary energy dynamics that was incorporated into monument design. The consistent use of this angle across different cultures and time periods indicates shared knowledge that originated from beings who understood planetary mechanics at a level that exceeded normal human capabilities during ancient periods. The mathematical precision encoded in ancient monuments by possible Martian refugees represents only one thread in a complex tapestry of evidence suggesting extraterrestrial intervention in human development. The most compelling evidence lies not in stone monuments or clay tablets, but within the very DNA that defines our species. The human genome contains anomalies that challenge conventional evolutionary theory and suggest direct genetic manipulation by advanced beings who possess sophisticated knowledge of molecular biology millions of years before terrestrial science developed the tools to understand genetic engineering. The sudden appearance of Homo sapiens in the fossil record approximately 300,000 years ago represents one of the most dramatic evolutionary leaps in Earth's biological history. Unlike other hominid species that show gradual morphological changes across hundreds of thousands of years, anatomically modern humans emerged with fully developed cognitive capabilities, advanced tool-making skills, and complex social structures that appeared virtually overnight in evolutionary terms. The transition from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens lacks the intermediate forms that characterize other evolutionary progressions, creating a gap in the fossil record that conventional paleontology struggles to explain. The cranial capacity of Homo sapiens increased by nearly 50% compared to earlier hominids, jumping from approximately 900 cubic centimeters in Homo erectus to 1,400 cubic centimeters in modern humans. This dramatic expansion occurred within a time frame that represents less than 1% of human evolutionary history, a rate of change that exceeds normal evolutionary processes by several orders of magnitude. The increase wasn't gradual, but appears to have occurred in discrete jumps, with intermediate brain sizes notably absent from the fossil record. More puzzling than the rapid brain expansion is the simultaneous development of neural structures that support advanced cognitive functions. The human brain contains specialized regions for language processing, abstract reasoning, and symbolic thinking that have no equivalent in other primates. These neural architectures require precise genetic programming to develop correctly, involving thousands of genes working in coordinated sequences. The probability of such complex neural structures evolving simultaneously through random mutation approaches mathematical impossibility within the timeframe suggested by current fossil evidence. The FOXP2 gene, often called the language gene, illustrates the precision required for human cognitive development. This gene differs from its chimpanzee equivalent by only 2 amino acid substitutions, yet these minimal changes enable the complex neural wiring necessary for human speech and language comprehension. The FOXP2 variants found in modern humans appear suddenly in the archaeological record without intermediate forms, suggesting direct genetic modification rather than gradual evolutionary change. The gene's regulatory effects cascade through multiple developmental pathways, influencing the formation of neural circuits that support not just language but also musical ability, mathematical reasoning, and abstract conceptualization. Human chromosome 2 presents perhaps the most striking evidence of genetic manipulation in our species' development. This chromosome appears to result from the fusion of 2 separate chromosomes found in other great apes, creating a unique genetic structure that distinguishes humans from all other primates. The fusion site contains telomeric sequences in the chromosome's interior, along with remnants of a second centromere that was inactivated during the fusion process. These molecular signatures indicate the fusion occurred relatively recently in evolutionary terms and involved precise genetic engineering rather than natural chromosomal rearrangement. The fusion of ancestral chromosomes 2A and 2B created new gene regulatory networks that don't exist in other primates. The junction region contains genetic elements that influence the expression of nearby genes involved in brain development, immune system function, and metabolic regulation. These regulatory effects appear designed to optimize human physiology for specific environmental conditions and cognitive capabilities that distinguish our species from other hominids. The precision of the fusion and its beneficial effects suggest deliberate genetic engineering rather than random chromosomal accident. Human genetic diversity reveals additional anomalies that challenge conventional evolutionary models. Despite our global distribution and large population size, humans display remarkably low genetic diversity compared to other primate species. Chimpanzees, with much smaller populations and limited geographic range, show significantly greater genetic variation than humans. This pattern suggests our species experienced a severe population bottleneck that reduced genetic diversity to unusually low levels, followed by rapid population expansion from a small founding group. Mitochondrial DNA analysis indicates all modern humans descend from a common female ancestor, dubbed Mitochondrial Eve, who lived approximately 200,000 years ago in Africa. This genetic bottleneck appears to coincide with the emergence of anatomically modern humans, suggesting our species originated from a small founding population rather than gradual evolution from earlier hominids. The timing and geographic location of this bottleneck correspond to periods of environmental stress in Africa, but the genetic patterns suggest artificial selection rather than natural environmental pressures. Y chromosome analysis reveals a similar pattern through Y chromosomal Adam, the common male ancestor of all modern humans who lived approximately 300,000 years ago. The genetic diversity of human Y chromosomes is extraordinarily low, with all variants traceable to a single ancestral sequence within the past 300,000 years. This pattern indicates either an extreme population bottleneck that eliminated most male lineages or selective breeding that favoured specific genetic variants. The precision of this genetic narrowing suggests artificial selection rather than random demographic collapse. The loss of body hair in humans represents another evolutionary anomaly that defies conventional explanation. Hair loss provided no obvious survival advantage for early humans living in African environments where protection from solar radiation and temperature regulation would have been crucial. Most mammals living in similar environments develop thicker, more protective coats rather than losing their hair entirely. The human pattern of hair retention, maintaining hair only on the head and specific body regions, suggests modification for specific purposes rather than natural environmental adaptation. The distribution of retained hair in humans follows patterns that optimize cooling efficiency while maintaining protection for the most vulnerable body regions. Head hair provides solar protection for the brain while allowing maximum heat dissipation from the scalp's extensive vascular network. Body hair retention in the axillary and pubic regions corresponds to areas with high concentrations of apocrine glands that produce chemical signals for social communication. This selective hair distribution appears designed to optimize both thermoregulation and chemical signaling, suggesting knowledge of human physiology that exceeded the understanding of early hominids. Human sweat gland distribution and density far exceed those of other primates, enabling sophisticated thermoregulation that supports sustained physical activity in hot climates. The human eccrine sweat system can produce up to 3 liters of sweat per hour, a cooling capacity that rivals mechanical refrigeration systems. This physiological capability appears suddenly in the human lineage, without intermediate forms in earlier hominids. The genetic programming required to develop such an extensive sweat gland network involves hundreds of genes working in precise coordination, suggesting artificial enhancement rather than gradual evolutionary development. The human reproductive system contains additional anomalies that distinguish our species from other primates. Human females experience concealed ovulation, making it difficult to determine fertile periods without technological assistance. This trait appears in very few mammalian species and provides no obvious survival advantage in natural environments. Concealed ovulation forces increased social bonding and cooperative behavior between males and females, suggesting modification to promote specific social structures rather than reproductive efficiency. Human infant development follows patterns that seem deliberately designed to promote brain growth at the expense of physical capability. Human babies are born in an extremely immature state compared to other primates, requiring extensive parental care for survival. This extended dependency period allows continued brain growth outside the womb, but creates significant survival disadvantages in natural environments. The trade-off between brain development and physical capability suggests artificial selection for cognitive enhancement rather than natural environmental adaptation. The human larynx occupies a uniquely low position compared to other mammals, enabling complex speech production but creating increased risk of choking during feeding. This anatomical modification appears suddenly in the human lineage and provides no obvious survival advantage beyond communication capability. The repositioned larynx requires coordinated changes in multiple anatomical structures, including the hyoid bone, tongue musculature, and pharyngeal architecture. The precision of these modifications suggests genetic engineering focused on communication enhancement rather than gradual evolutionary adaptation. Analysis of so-called junk DNA reveals additional evidence of genetic manipulation in human development. Approximately 98% of the human genome consists of non-coding sequences that were once dismissed as evolutionary debris. Recent research demonstrates that many of these sequences play crucial regulatory roles in gene expression, controlling when and where specific genes are activated during development. The complexity of these regulatory networks far exceeds what random evolutionary processes could generate within the timeframes suggested by human evolutionary history. Transposable elements, or jumping genes, comprise nearly half of the human genome and show patterns of activation that correlate with major evolutionary transitions in human development. These genetic elements can move between chromosomes and alter gene expression patterns, potentially driving rapid evolutionary change. The distribution and activation patterns of transposable elements in humans differ significantly from other primates, suggesting artificial manipulation of these genetic switches to promote specific developmental outcomes. Endogenous retroviruses embedded in human DNA provide evidence of ancient viral infections that became permanently integrated into our genome. These viral sequences, known as HERVs, comprise approximately 8% of human DNA and show activation patterns that influence immune system development, neural function, and reproductive biology. Some HERV sequences appear to have been artificially modified to serve beneficial functions rather than representing random viral integration events. The HERV-W sequence plays crucial roles in placental development, enabling the formation of syncytio trophoblast cells that allow nutrient exchange between mother and fetus. This viral-derived protein, called syncytin, appears to have been co-opted for reproductive function through precise genetic modification. The integration site and regulatory sequences controlling syncytin expression show characteristics of artificial insertion rather than random viral integration. Similar patterns appear in other HERV sequences that influence brain development and immune system function. Blood type distribution patterns provide additional evidence of genetic manipulation in human populations. The ABO blood group system shows geographic clustering that doesn't correspond to natural migration patterns or environmental pressures. Type O blood, the most ancient variant, predominates in isolated populations that have had minimal contact with other groups. Types A and B appear to have emerged more recently and show distribution patterns that suggest artificial introduction rather than natural selection. The Rh blood group system presents even more striking anomalies. Approximately 15% of humans carry Rh-negative blood, a trait that appears nowhere else in the primate lineage. Rh-negative individuals show increased susceptibility to certain diseases, but also display enhanced resistance to specific pathogens and toxins. The distribution of Rh-negative blood shows strong geographic clustering, with highest frequencies in populations of European descent and notably low frequencies in African and Asian populations. Rh-negative mothers experience hemolytic disease when carrying Rh-positive fetuses, a potentially fatal condition that requires medical intervention for successful pregnancy outcomes. This reproductive incompatibility provides no evolutionary advantage and would normally be eliminated by natural selection. The persistence of Rh-negative blood, despite its reproductive disadvantages, suggests artificial maintenance of this genetic variant for unknown purposes. The geographic distribution of Rh-negative blood correlates with populations that show other genetic anomalies, including increased frequencies of certain neurological conditions, enhanced psychic sensitivity, and unusual physical characteristics such as lower body temperature and higher IQ averages. These correlations suggest Rh-negative blood may serve as a marker for genetic modifications that affect multiple physiological and neurological systems simultaneously. Genetic analysis of Rh-negative individuals reveals additional anomalies in chromosome structure and gene expression patterns. These individuals show increased frequencies of chromosomal inversions, duplications, and other structural variants that could result from artificial genetic manipulation. The patterns of genetic variation in Rh-negative populations differ significantly from those expected under natural evolutionary processes, suggesting introduction of genetic material from an external source. The molecular structure of Rh-negative blood lacks specific protein antigens found in all other primate species, creating a unique biochemical signature that distinguishes these individuals at the cellular level. The absence of these antigens affects immune system function, neural development, and metabolic regulation in ways that optimize specific capabilities while creating vulnerabilities in other areas. This pattern of trade-off suggests deliberate genetic engineering focused on enhancing particular traits rather than overall survival fitness. Recent advances in ancient DNA analysis have revealed additional genetic anomalies in human populations that challenge conventional evolutionary models. Neanderthal DNA sequences found in modern human genomes show patterns of integration that suggest artificial hybridization rather than natural interbreeding. The Neanderthal genetic variants that persist in modern humans are concentrated in specific genomic regions that influence immune system function, neural development, and metabolic regulation, while variants affecting other systems were systematically eliminated. Denisovan DNA found in modern human populations shows similar patterns of selective integration, with specific genetic variants maintained in particular geographic regions while others were eliminated. The distribution of Denisovan ancestry correlates with populations that show enhanced adaptation to high-altitude environments, suggesting artificial selection for specific physiological capabilities. The precision of this genetic integration indicates controlled hybridization rather than random interbreeding between distinct hominid species. The discovery of additional archaic human DNA in modern populations reveals the complexity of human genetic history and suggests multiple episodes of artificial hybridization. These genetic variants appear in specific combinations that optimize particular capabilities while maintaining overall genetic stability. The patterns of integration suggest sophisticated understanding of genetic compatibility and hybrid vigor that exceeded the knowledge available to ancient human populations. The precision of genetic integration patterns found in modern human populations extends beyond DNA sequences into the realm of physical construction capabilities that defy conventional understanding of ancient engineering. While genetic anomalies suggest artificial enhancement of human cognitive and physiological capabilities, the megalithic structures scattered across the globe provide tangible evidence that our ancestors possessed construction techniques far beyond what mainstream archaeology attributes to their technological development. These monuments, built with precision that challenges modern engineering capabilities, demonstrate knowledge of advanced construction methods that appear suddenly in the archaeological record without developmental precedents. At Pumapunku in Bolivia, located 12,800 feet above sea level on the Altiplano Plateau, massive stone blocks display machine-like precision that exceeds the capabilities of conventional ancient construction techniques. The site contains andesite and red sandstone blocks weighing up to 131 tons, carved with interlocking joints that fit together with tolerances measured in fractions of millimeters. The precision of these joints surpasses what can be achieved with hand tools, requiring cutting accuracy that approaches modern industrial standards. The blocks feature complex three-dimensional geometries including H-shaped cuts, step platforms, and intricate channel systems that would challenge contemporary stone-cutting equipment. The andesite blocks at Pumapunku exhibit surface finishes that appear to have been achieved through advanced machining processes rather than traditional stoneworking techniques. Microscopic analysis reveals tool marks consistent with high-speed cutting implements, creating surface textures that match modern diamond-tipped saws and precision grinding equipment. The uniformity of these surface finishes across multiple blocks indicates standardized manufacturing processes that produced identical results regardless of the individual craftsman involved. This level of consistency requires mechanized production methods that supposedly didn't exist in pre-Columbian South America. The geometric precision of Pumapunku's construction extends to the mathematical relationships embedded within the site's layout. The positioning of major structural elements follows specific angular relationships that incorporate advanced trigonometric calculations. The site's orientation aligns with astronomical phenomena, including solstices, equinoxes, and stellar positions that require sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics. The mathematical precision of these alignments exceeds the accuracy achievable through simple observation techniques, suggesting the use of advanced surveying instruments and computational methods. The transportation of Pumapunku's massive stone blocks presents logistical challenges that conventional archaeology struggles to explain. The andesite blocks were quarried from sites located over 60 miles away, requiring transportation across difficult terrain that includes rivers, valleys, and steep mountain slopes. The largest blocks weigh over 131 tons, exceeding the lifting capacity of any known ancient transportation methods. The precision with which these blocks were positioned at the construction site indicates not just successful transportation, but also sophisticated lifting and placement techniques that could manipulate multi-ton stones with millimetre accuracy. At Sacsayhuaman, the massive fortress complex overlooking Cusco, Peru, megalithic limestone blocks weighing up to 200 tons are fitted together with precision that defies explanation using conventional Incan construction techniques. The blocks feature complex polygonal shapes with multiple angles and curved surfaces that interlock perfectly without mortar or binding agents. The precision of these joints is so exact that a knife blade cannot be inserted between adjacent stones, creating structural integrity that has survived centuries of earthquakes and environmental stress. The complex geometries of individual blocks require three-dimensional planning and cutting techniques that exceed the capabilities of bronze and stone tools available to pre-Columbian civilizations. The largest blocks at Sacsayhuaman display evidence of cutting techniques that produced perfectly flat surfaces across areas measuring several square meters. These surfaces maintain consistent flatness to within millimeters across their entire extent, requiring precision that approaches modern industrial standards. The creation of such flat surfaces on irregularly shaped limestone blocks would challenge contemporary stone-cutting equipment, yet ancient builders achieved this precision using techniques that have left no archaeological trace of the required tools or methods. The quarrying techniques evidenced at Sacsayhuaman reveal advanced understanding of stone fracture mechanics and controlled splitting methods. The limestone blocks show evidence of precise directional splitting that followed predetermined fracture lines, creating complex three-dimensional shapes from solid bedrock. The accuracy of these splits indicates knowledge of internal stone structure and stress distribution that enabled controlled fracturing along specific planes. This level of quarrying precision requires understanding of geological engineering principles that weren't formally developed until modern times. The Baalbek complex in Lebanon contains the largest worked stone blocks in the world, with the famous trilithon stones weighing approximately 800 tons each. These massive limestone blocks were quarried from sites located over a mile from their current position and lifted to heights of over 20 feet above ground level. The precision with which these blocks were positioned creates perfectly level courses that maintain their alignment across distances of over 100 feet. The engineering challenges of moving and positioning 800-ton stones exceed the capabilities of modern construction equipment, requiring lifting capacities and precision placement techniques that surpass current technological capabilities. The stone of the pregnant woman, still located in Baalbek's ancient quarry, weighs an estimated 1,000 tons and shows evidence of advanced quarrying techniques that prepared it for transportation. The stone's surfaces display uniform cutting marks that indicate systematic removal from the bedrock, using techniques that produced consistent results across the entire extraction perimeter. The precision of the cutting suggests mechanical processes rather than manual labour, yet no evidence exists of machinery capable of such work in ancient Lebanon. The stone's preparation for transportation includes lifting points and structural reinforcements that demonstrates sophisticated understanding of load distribution and stress management for moving objects of extreme mass. Ancient Egyptian granite work provides additional evidence of advanced cutting and drilling techniques that challenge conventional understanding of pharaonic construction capabilities. The granite sarcophagi in the Great Pyramid and other monuments display precision that rivals modern machine work, with internal dimensions accurate to within fractions of millimeters across their entire volume. The creation of these precisely dimensioned chambers required cutting techniques that could maintain accuracy while removing tons of material from solid granite blocks. The tool marks preserved on these surfaces indicate high-speed cutting processes that produced consistent results regardless of granite hardness variations. The drilling techniques evidenced in ancient Egyptian granite work demonstrate capabilities that exceed conventional explanations of available tools and methods. Granite blocks throughout Egypt contain cylindrical holes drilled with precision that matches modern diamond-tipped core drilling equipment. These holes maintain consistent diameter and perfectly circular cross-sections throughout their depth, indicating drilling processes that operated at high speeds with minimal deviation. The spiral tool marks preserved inside these holes suggest drilling rates that exceed what could be achieved with copper tools and abrasive compounds available to ancient Egyptian craftsmen. The granite boxes found in the Serapeum at Saqqara represent perhaps the most precise stonework in ancient Egypt, with internal dimensions that vary by less than 0.1 millimeters across their entire volume. These massive granite containers, each weighing over 70 tons, were hollowed out from solid blocks with precision that approaches modern industrial standards. The uniformity of wall thickness throughout each container indicates cutting techniques that could maintain consistent depth while removing material from irregular granite formations. The surface finishes on these containers display polishing quality that rivals modern optical surfaces, requiring finishing techniques that produced mirror-like reflectivity on granite surfaces. The lid-fitting precision of the Serapeum boxes demonstrates advanced understanding of thermal expansion and dimensional stability in granite construction. The lids fit their respective containers with tolerances measured in thousandths of inches, creating hermetic seals that have maintained their integrity for millennia. This level of precision requires not just accurate cutting, but also compensation for thermal expansion differences between lid and container materials. The engineering knowledge necessary for such precise fitting suggests understanding of material properties and dimensional stability that wasn't formally developed until modern materials science emerged. Megalithic construction techniques display remarkable consistency across geographically isolated ancient cultures, suggesting shared knowledge or common source of advanced construction methods. The precision stone-cutting techniques found at Puma Punku appear in similar form at Easter Island, where massive moai statues display tool marks consistent with advanced cutting equipment. The polygonal masonry techniques of Sacsayhuaman find parallels in Japanese megalithic construction at sites like the Osaka Castle Foundation, where similar precision-fitting methods were employed using different stone types and construction contexts. The global distribution of advanced drilling techniques provides compelling evidence for shared technological knowledge among ancient civilizations. Precision-drilled holes appear in granite monuments across Egypt, Peru, India, and other locations, displaying identical characteristics that suggest common drilling methods and equipment. The consistency of these drilling techniques across different cultures and time periods indicates either direct technological transfer or common source of advanced knowledge that was disseminated to multiple civilizations simultaneously. Advanced lifting and transportation techniques appear consistently across megalithic sites worldwide, suggesting shared understanding of heavy construction methods that exceeded conventional ancient capabilities. The precision placement of massive stones at diverse locations including Stonehenge, Easter Island, and Nan Madol demonstrates similar engineering approaches to solving identical logistical challenges. The consistency of these solutions across isolated cultures indicates common technological knowledge rather than independent development of similar techniques. The mathematical precision embedded in megalithic construction worldwide reveals shared understanding of advanced geometric principles and astronomical relationships. Sites across different continents incorporate identical angular measurements, proportional relationships, and celestial alignments that suggest common source of mathematical and astronomical knowledge. The precision of these mathematical relationships exceeds what could be achieved through simple observation and trial and error methods, indicating access to sophisticated computational techniques and measuring instruments. Surface finishing techniques display remarkable consistency across megalithic sites in different geographic regions, suggesting shared knowledge of advanced stoneworking methods. The mirror-like granite surfaces found in Egyptian monuments appear in similar form at sites in Peru, India, and other locations where local stone types were finished to identical standards of precision and reflectivity. The consistency of these surface treatments across different stone types and construction contexts indicates standardized finishing techniques that produced uniform results regardless of local materials and conditions. The integration of advanced metallurgical techniques in megalithic construction provides evidence for sophisticated understanding of metal properties and applications in stonework. Bronze and iron implements found at construction sites worldwide display characteristics that suggest advanced alloying techniques and heat treatment methods. The precision of metal tools required for achieving observed stone-cutting accuracy indicates metallurgical capabilities that exceeded conventional ancient techniques, suggesting access to advanced materials science knowledge that enabled production of superior cutting implements. Toolmark analysis across megalithic sites reveals consistent patterns that suggest standardized cutting equipment and methods rather than locally developed techniques. The microscopic characteristics of tool marks found on precisely cut stones display identical features regardless of geographic location or supposed construction date. This consistency indicates either widespread distribution of identical tools and techniques, or systematic construction program that employed standardized methods across multiple sites and cultures. The acoustic properties engineered into megalithic chambers worldwide reveal only one dimension of the sophisticated astronomical knowledge that ancient civilizations possessed and encoded into their most enduring monuments. Far more compelling evidence lies in the mathematical precision of their calendrical systems, which track celestial cycles spanning tens of thousands of years with accuracy that rivals modern astronomical calculations. The Mayan long count calendar represents perhaps the most sophisticated example of this advanced temporal knowledge, incorporating cosmic cycles that require centuries of systematic observation and mathematical modelling to understand fully. The long count system operates on a vigesimal base 20 mathematical foundation that enables calculations spanning millions of years while maintaining precision to individual days. The calendar's basic structure consists of nested cycles beginning with the kin, progressing through the Winil, Tun, Katun and Baktun. This hierarchical organisation allows for precise tracking of time intervals that extend far beyond practical human lifespans, suggesting the system was designed by beings with extended temporal perspectives or access to astronomical records spanning millennia. The mathematical sophistication of the long count becomes apparent when examining its correlation with astronomical phenomena that weren't officially discovered until modern times. The calendar incorporates the 26,000-year precession cycle with remarkable accuracy, tracking the gradual shift in Earth's axial orientation that causes changes in stellar positions over millennia. This precession cycle wasn't formally recognized by Western astronomy until Hipparchus documented it in the 2nd century BC. Yet Mayan astronomers built this knowledge into their calendrical calculations with precision that exceeds many historical European measurements. The long count's correlation with precession appears most clearly in its treatment of the world tree, the Mayan conception of the cosmic axis that connects the underworld, earth, and heavens. This axis corresponds to the intersection of the ecliptic and galactic equator, a celestial reference point that shifts position due to precession over thousands of years. Mayan calculations tracked this shift with mathematical precision that required understanding of spherical trigonometry and long-term astronomical observation capabilities that supposedly didn't exist in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica. The calendar's base date of 13, 0.0.0.04 Ahawait Kumku, corresponding to August 11th, 3114 BC in the Gregorian system, aligns with specific astronomical configurations that reveal sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics. This date marks a rare alignment of the summer solstice sun with the galactic equator, an event that occurs approximately every 26,000 years due to precession. The precision of this correlation indicates the Mayan calendar wasn't simply tracking solar years, but was designed to monitor cosmic cycles that span geological time periods. The Venus cycle integration within Mayan calendrical systems demonstrates astronomical knowledge that required systematic observation spanning multiple centuries. Venus displays a complex synodic period of 584 days, but its relationship with Earth's orbital position creates longer cycles that weren't fully understood until modern celestial mechanics developed. Mayan astronomers calculated Venus cycles with precision that accounts for the planet's orbital eccentricity and the gravitational perturbations that create subtle variations in its apparent motion. Their calculations achieved accuracy within hours across multi-century time spans, indicating access to observational data and computational methods that exceeded conventional ancient capabilities. The Dresden Codex contains Venus tables that predict the planet's heliacal rising and setting dates across 481-year cycles, incorporating corrections for leap years and orbital irregularities that require sophisticated mathematical modelling. These tables account for the 8-day discrepancy that accumulates every 61 Venus cycles, applying corrections that maintain accuracy across centuries of observation. The mathematical techniques required for these calculations include understanding of fractional arithmetic, iterative approximation methods, and error correction algorithms that weren't formally developed in European mathematics until the Renaissance period. Mayan lunar calculations reveal equally sophisticated astronomical knowledge through their tracking of the Moon's complex orbital mechanics. The lunar cycle involves multiple periodicities including the synodic month, sidereal month, and anomalistic month, each reflecting different aspects of lunar motion relative to Earth and the stars. Mayan astronomers calculated these cycles with precision that accounts for the Moon's orbital eccentricity, apsidal precession, and the gravitational influences of the Sun that create variations in lunar motion over extended time periods. The lunar series inscriptions found at Palenque and other sites demonstrate calculations that track lunar positions across centuries with accuracy that matches modern ephemeris tables. These calculations incorporate knowledge of the 18.6-year lunar standstill cycle, during which the Moon's maximum declination varies between 18.5 and 28.5 degrees. The precision of these calculations requires understanding of the gravitational interactions between Earth, Moon, and Sun that create complex periodicities in lunar motion. The mathematical techniques involved include spherical trigonometry and perturbation theory that weren't formally developed until modern celestial mechanics emerged. Eclipse prediction capabilities preserved in Mayan codices reveal understanding of the Saros cycle and its variations that enabled accurate forecasting of solar and lunar eclipses across extended time periods. The Saros cycle of 18 years, 11 days and 8 hours represents the period after which eclipse patterns repeat with slight modifications due to the fractional day component. Mayan astronomers calculated Saros variations that account for the gradual shift in eclipse timing and geographic visibility, enabling predictions that maintained accuracy across multiple centuries. The Madrid Codex contains eclipse tables that predict both solar and lunar eclipses across 33-year periods, incorporating corrections for the geographical latitude differences that affect eclipse visibility in the Mayan region. These calculations require understanding of spherical astronomy and the geometric relationships between Earth, Moon, and Sun during eclipse events. The precision of these predictions indicates access to observational records spanning multiple Saros cycles and mathematical techniques for extrapolating eclipse timing across extended future periods. The significance of the number 72 in ancient cultures worldwide provides compelling evidence for shared knowledge of precession calculations that required sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics. This number appears consistently in mythological narratives, architectural proportions, and calendrical systems across geographically isolated civilizations, suggesting common source of astronomical knowledge rather than independent discovery of identical mathematical relationships. The number 72 represents the years required for precession to shift stellar positions by 1 degree, a calculation that requires systematic observation spanning centuries and mathematical techniques for measuring angular changes in celestial coordinates. Egyptian mythology incorporates the number 72 through its account of Set's conspiracy against Osiris, involving 72 conspirators who participated in the murder of the god-king. This narrative preserves mathematical knowledge of precession disguised as mythological allegory, with the 72 conspirators representing the years required for 1 degree precession shift. The precision of this correlation indicates Egyptian astronomers possessed detailed knowledge of precession rates and incorporated this information into their religious narratives as a method of preserving astronomical data across generations. The Norse tradition preserves similar precession knowledge through its description of Valhalla's 540 doors, each wide enough for 800 warriors to march through simultaneously. The total number of warriors represents a multiple of 72 that corresponds to specific precession calculations related to the duration of cosmic ages. This mathematical relationship appears too precise to represent coincidental numerical choices, suggesting the Norse accounts preserve astronomical knowledge encoded in mythological narratives that enable transmission across generations of non-literate cultures. Hindu scriptures contain multiple references to the number 72 and its multiples in contexts that relate to cosmic cycles and astronomical calculations. The Puranas describe cosmic ages lasting 432,000 years, representing 6,000 times the 72-year precession unit. These calculations correspond to sophisticated astronomical models that track precession across multiple complete cycles, requiring mathematical techniques and observational capabilities that exceeded conventional ancient Indian astronomy. The precision of these correlations indicates access to astronomical knowledge that was preserved and transmitted through religious texts across millennia. Ancient eclipse prediction capabilities demonstrate understanding of celestial mechanics that required systematic observation and mathematical modelling across multiple generations of astronomers. The Antikythera mechanism incorporates eclipse prediction capabilities that account for the Saros cycle and its variations, enabling accurate forecasting of eclipse events across extended time periods. The device's bronze gear trains calculate the complex periodicities involved in eclipse prediction, including the effects of lunar orbital eccentricity and the gradual shift in eclipse timing due to tidal friction effects on Earth's rotation. The mechanism's eclipse prediction dial displays a 223-month Saros cycle with subdivisions that track individual eclipse events and their characteristics. The device indicates eclipse magnitude, duration, and approximate timing with accuracy that matches modern astronomical calculations. The mechanical complexity required for these calculations involves gear ratios that represent astronomical periods with precision exceeding 1 part in 10,000, indicating manufacturing capabilities and astronomical knowledge that supposedly didn't exist in ancient Greece. Babylonian astronomical texts preserve eclipse prediction methods that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of lunar motion and the geometric conditions required for eclipse occurrence. The Babylonian lunar theory incorporates knowledge of lunar orbital eccentricity, apsidal precession, and the gravitational perturbations that create variations in lunar motion over extended time periods. These calculations enabled eclipse predictions with accuracy that maintained precision across multiple Saros cycles, indicating access to observational records spanning centuries and mathematical techniques for modelling complex celestial mechanics. The Babylonian ephemeris tables calculate lunar positions with accuracy that accounts for the Moon's variable orbital velocity and the effects of solar gravitational perturbations on lunar motion. These calculations require understanding of elliptical orbital mechanics and perturbation theory that weren't formally developed until Kepler and Newton established the mathematical foundations of celestial mechanics. The precision of Babylonian lunar calculations exceeds what could be achieved through simple geometric models, indicating access to sophisticated mathematical techniques and extensive observational databases. Ancient knowledge of planetary cycles extends far beyond the 5 planets visible to naked eye observation, encompassing understanding of outer planet periods that weren't officially discovered until telescopic astronomy began. Sumerian astronomical texts contain references to planetary periods that correspond closely to modern calculations for Uranus and Neptune, celestial bodies that remain invisible without optical assistance. The accuracy of these period calculations indicates either advanced observational capabilities or access to astronomical knowledge from sources possessing superior instrumentation. The Muldot-Appin series describes planetary periods that include references to celestial bodies with orbital characteristics matching the outer planets of the solar system. These texts describe planets with periods of approximately 84 and 165 years, corresponding closely to the orbital periods of Uranus and Neptune respectively. The precision of these correlations exceeds what could be achieved through naked eye observation and theoretical speculation, suggesting access to actual observational data collected using advanced instrumentation. Vedic astronomical texts contain similar references to outer planetary periods embedded within descriptions of cosmic cycles and divine chronologies. The Surya Siddhanta describes planetary periods that encompass the full range of solar system bodies, including references to distant planets with characteristics matching the outer solar system. These calculations incorporate knowledge of planetary orbital mechanics that wasn't formally understood until modern astronomy developed detailed models of gravitational interactions within the solar system. The precision of ancient planetary calculations extends to understanding of orbital eccentricities, inclinations, and the complex gravitational interactions that create variations in planetary motion over extended time periods. Ancient astronomical texts describe planetary behavior that accounts for retrograde motion, conjunction timing, and the subtle perturbations that affect planetary positions across multiple orbital cycles. This level of understanding requires mathematical techniques and observational capabilities that exceeded conventional ancient astronomy by several orders of magnitude. Ancient understanding of stellar proper motion demonstrates astronomical knowledge that required systematic observation, spanning centuries, and mathematical techniques for measuring minute angular changes in stellar positions. Hipparchus documented the precession of equinoxes through comparison of his stellar observations with the earlier Babylonian records, but the precision of his calculations suggests access to observational databases spanning much longer time periods than the historical record indicates. The accuracy of ancient precession calculations requires measurement techniques capable of detecting angular changes measured in arc seconds across multi-century time spans. The mathematical sophistication required for precession calculations involves spherical trigonometry and coordinate transformation techniques that weren't formally developed until modern astronomy emerged. Ancient astronomers calculated precession effects with precision that accounts for the complex gravitational interactions between Earth, Moon, and Sun that cause variations in precession rate over extended time periods. These calculations require understanding of celestial mechanics that encompasses the full range of gravitational influences affecting Earth's rotational dynamics. The global distribution of sophisticated astronomical knowledge among ancient civilizations suggests either widespread technological capabilities that exceeded conventional archaeological models, or systematic knowledge transfer from advanced sources possessing superior astronomical instrumentation and mathematical techniques. The consistency of astronomical calculations across geographically isolated cultures indicates shared access to observational databases and computational methods that enabled precision measurements of celestial phenomena across extended time periods. The preservation of complex astronomical knowledge through various cultural transmission methods demonstrates sophisticated understanding of information storage and retrieval systems that enabled accurate preservation of numerical data across millennia. Ancient cultures developed multiple redundant systems for preserving astronomical knowledge, including architectural encoding, mythological narratives, and mathematical relationships embedded within calendrical systems that ensured survival of critical astronomical information, despite cultural disruptions and technological limitations. The sophisticated astronomical knowledge preserved across ancient civilizations worldwide points towards an understanding of celestial mechanics that extends far beyond Earth's immediate cosmic neighborhood. This knowledge encompasses awareness of distant planetary bodies and their gravitational influences on terrestrial events, suggesting ancient observers possessed either advanced instrumentation or direct information from sources familiar with the outer solar system's architecture. The most controversial aspect of this astronomical knowledge involves references to a massive, distant planet following an extremely elliptical orbit that brings it into the inner solar system at regular intervals, causing catastrophic disruptions to Earth's climate, geology, and biological systems. Modern astronomical surveys have detected gravitational anomalies in the outer solar system that suggest the presence of a large undiscovered planet beyond Neptune's orbit. The discovery of trans-Neptunian objects with unusual orbital characteristics has prompted renewed scientific interest in the possibility of a ninth planet, temporarily designated Planet 9, with an estimated mass between 5 and 10 times that of Earth. The proposed orbital characteristics of this hypothetical planet include a semi-major axis of approximately 400 to 800 astronomical units and an orbital period ranging from 10,000 to 20,000 years, placing it in the distant Kuiper Belt region where direct observation remains extremely challenging. The gravitational signature of Planet 9 appears in the clustered orbital orientations of several trans-Neptunian objects whose perihelion arguments align in ways that statistical analysis indicates cannot result from random distribution. Objects including Sedna, 2012 VP 113, and 2014 SR 349 display orbital characteristics that suggest shepherding by a massive distant object whose gravitational influence constrains their orbital evolution. Computer simulations modeling the outer solar system's dynamics require a Planet 9-sized object to reproduce the observed orbital clustering, with the planet's gravitational field creating resonant relationships that maintain the trans-Neptunian object's unusual orbital alignments across millions of years. The proposed orbital characteristics of Planet 9 differ significantly from the ancient Mesopotamian descriptions of Nibiru, which describe a planet following a much more eccentric orbit with a period of approximately 3,600 years. Sitchin's translations of Sumerian texts describe Nibiru as approaching the inner solar system during each orbital cycle, creating gravitational disturbances that affect planetary positions and trigger catastrophic events on Earth. The orbital mechanics required for such close approaches would create instabilities throughout the solar system that, conflict with the observed long-term stability of planetary orbits, suggesting either misinterpretation of the ancient texts or description of the events occurring under different solar system configurations than exist today. However, the gravitational effects of a massive outer planet could manifest through more subtle mechanisms than direct orbital perturbations. A Planet 9-sized object could influence the solar system's barycenter, the gravitational center around which all objects orbit, causing periodic shifts in solar activity that affect Earth's climate and magnetic field. The Sun's magnetic field undergoes complex cycles that correlate with solar activity levels, and external gravitational influences could modulate these cycles in ways that create periodic increases in solar radiation, coronal mass ejections, and other phenomena capable of triggering terrestrial catastrophes. The 11-year solar cycle displays variations in intensity and duration that suggest modulation by external gravitational influences operating on longer timescales. Sunspot activity, solar flare frequency, and coronal mass ejection patterns show correlations with planetary alignments and long-term orbital cycles that indicate the Sun's magnetic field responds to gravitational perturbations from throughout the solar system. A massive outer planet following an elliptical orbit could create periodic gravitational resonances that amplify solar activity during specific orbital phases, triggering enhanced radiation output and magnetic field disruptions that affect Earth's atmosphere and a magnetic field. Earth's geological record preserves evidence of periodic catastrophic events that correlate with astronomical cycles spanning thousands to millions of years. Mass extinction events show statistical clustering that suggests external triggering mechanisms operating on timescales much longer than terrestrial geological processes. The Permian-Triassic extinction 252 million years ago eliminated over 90% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrates, creating the most severe biodiversity crisis in Earth's history. The Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction, 66 million years ago, ended the reign of non-avian dinosaurs and eliminated approximately 75% of Earth's species. These and other major extinction events display timing patterns that suggest periodic external influences rather than random catastrophic occurrences. The geological evidence for periodic catastrophes extends beyond mass extinctions to include climate disruptions, magnetic field reversals, and massive volcanic episodes that correlate with astronomical cycles. The Deccan Traps volcanism that coincided with the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction produced lava flows covering over 500,000 square kilometers of the Indian subcontinent, releasing enormous quantities of sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. The timing of this massive volcanic episode correlates with the Chicxulub impact event, suggesting multiple catastrophic triggers operating simultaneously during periods of enhanced astronomical activity. Ice core data from Greenland and Antarctica reveal periodic climate disruptions that correlate with astronomical cycles and suggest external triggering mechanisms for rapid climate change. The Younger Dryas period, beginning approximately 12,900 years ago, marked an abrupt return to glacial conditions that lasted for over 1,000 years before equally rapid warming restored interglacial climate conditions. The speed of these climate transitions, occurring within decades rather than centuries, indicates triggering mechanisms that exceed the response time of normal climate system feedbacks. The Younger Dryas climate reversal correlates with evidence of cosmic impact events that may have triggered the rapid cooling through injection of particulate matter into the atmosphere. The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis proposes that fragments of a disintegrating comet struck North America and Northern Europe, creating widespread fires, atmospheric dust loading, and disruption of ocean circulation patterns. Evidence supporting this hypothesis includes elevated concentrations of platinum, microspherules, and nanodiamonds in sediment layers corresponding to the Younger Dryas onset, along with evidence of massive biomass burning across North America. The timing of the Younger Dryas impact correlates with the 900-year half-cycle of precession, suggesting possible connections between astronomical cycles and cosmic impact events. The precession cycle affects Earth's orbital geometry and seasonal radiation patterns, potentially influencing the trajectories of cometary objects and their probability of intersecting Earth's orbit. Enhanced comet flux during specific orbital configurations could create periodic increases in impact probability that correlate with astronomical cycles spanning thousands of years. Ancient flood narratives worldwide describe catastrophic events that may preserve memories of the Younger Dryas climate disruption and associated cosmic impact events. The consistency of these flood accounts across geographically isolated cultures suggests they commemorate actual historical events rather than purely mythological constructs. The timing of these narratives, preserved through oral traditions that maintain remarkable consistency across millennia, corresponds to the Younger Dryas period and other periods of rapid climate change documented in the geological record. The Epic of Gilgamesh provides specific details about the duration, intensity and aftermath of the Great Flood that closely match the characteristics of Younger Dryas climate disruption. Utnapishtim's account describes continuous storms lasting for specific time periods, followed by gradual recession of floodwaters and systematic efforts to restore civilization. The technical specifications provided for ark construction include dimensions and materials that would optimize survival during extended periods of severe weather and flooding, suggesting the account preserves practical knowledge rather than purely symbolic narrative. Biblical flood accounts include chronological details that may correlate with specific phases of the Younger Dryas climate disruption. The 40-day duration of continuous rainfall followed by 150 days of flooding corresponds to timeframes that match paleoclimate evidence for the onset and duration of Younger Dryas cooling. The systematic preservation of animal species described in the Noah narrative suggests organized efforts to maintain biodiversity during periods of environmental catastrophe, possibly preserving memories of actual conservation programs implemented during ancient climate crises. Hindu flood narratives in the Matsya Purana describe similar catastrophic events with technical details that suggest preservation of historical memories rather than purely mythological accounts. The description of Manu receiving detailed instructions for survival vessel construction includes specifications that optimize stability and cargo capacity for surviving oceanic conditions during extended periods of severe weather. The systematic preservation of seeds and animals described in these accounts corresponds to conservation strategies that would be necessary for maintaining civilization during major climate disruptions. The correlation between ancient flood narratives and geological evidence for catastrophic events suggests these accounts preserve historical memories of actual disasters that affected global human populations. The consistency of technical details across different cultural traditions indicates shared knowledge of survival strategies and construction techniques that were developed in response to recurring catastrophic events. The preservation of this knowledge through oral traditions spanning thousands of years demonstrates sophisticated information storage systems that maintained accuracy across numerous generations. Modern planet hunting techniques have revolutionized astronomical capabilities for detecting distant objects in the outer solar system, potentially validating ancient knowledge of planetary bodies beyond conventional observational limits. The Infrared Astronomical Satellite conducted comprehensive surveys of the infrared sky that detected numerous previously unknown objects in the outer solar system, including several large trans-Neptunian objects that approach the size range described for Planet 9. Advanced ground-based telescopes equipped with adaptive optics systems and sensitive CCD cameras have extended detection capabilities to objects with apparent magnitudes approaching the theoretical limits for Planet 9 observation. The Large Synoptic Survey Telescope, scheduled for full operation in the mid-2020s, will conduct systematic surveys of the southern sky with sensitivity sufficient to detect Planet 9 if it exists within the predicted orbital range. The telescope's wide-field imaging capabilities and advanced data processing systems will enable detection of objects with extremely slow, proper motion, the key observational signature expected for a distant massive planet. The survey's planned duration of 10 years will provide sufficient temporal baseline to confirm orbital motion and distinguish genuine trans-Neptunian objects from background stars and galaxies. Gravitational microlensing surveys offer alternative detection methods for Planet 9 that exploit the gravitational focusing effects of massive objects on background starlight. The Optical Gravitational Lensing Experiment and similar programs monitor millions of stars for temporary brightness variations caused by intervening massive objects, including planets orbiting distant stars and free-floating planetary objects in interstellar space. A Planet 9-sized object could produce detectable microlensing events if it passes between Earth and background stars, providing direct evidence for its existence and orbital characteristics. Space-based infrared telescopes provide optimal platforms for detecting the thermal emission from distant planetary objects that remain too faint for optical detection. The James Webb Space Telescope's infrared capabilities enable detection of objects with temperatures as low as 30 Kelvin, encompassing the predicted temperature range for Planet 9 based on its distance from the Sun. The telescope's unprecedented sensitivity and resolution could reveal thermal signatures from distant planetary objects that have remained undetected by previous surveys, potentially confirming the existence of additional planets in the outer solar system. The search for Planet 9 has revealed numerous smaller trans-Neptunian objects whose orbital characteristics provide indirect evidence for gravitational influences from unseen massive objects. The discovery rate of these distant objects has accelerated dramatically with improved survey techniques, revealing a population of small planetary bodies in the outer solar system that exceeds previous estimates by orders of magnitude. The orbital distribution of these objects shows statistical patterns that suggest shepherding by massive unseen objects, providing circumstantial evidence for Planet 9 or similar distant planetary bodies. The orbital characteristics of recently discovered trans-Neptunian objects display clustering patterns that statistical analysis indicates cannot result from observational bias or random distribution. Objects including 2013 RF98, 2014 FE72 and 2015 GT50 show orbital alignments that require external gravitational influences to maintain their current configurations. Computer simulations of outer solar system dynamics demonstrate that these orbital patterns remain stable only when massive distant objects provide gravitational shepherding effects that constrain orbital evolution over millions of years. The discovery of 2014 UZ224, a dwarf planet with orbital characteristics similar to Sedna, provides additional evidence for gravitational influences from distant massive objects in the outer solar system. The object's highly elliptical orbit carries it from approximately 38 astronomical units at perihelion to over 180 astronomical units at aphelion, following a trajectory that suggests perturbation by external gravitational sources. The orbital period of approximately 1,100 years places the object in a dynamical class that requires specific gravitational influences to maintain orbital stability across solar system history. Ancient astronomical texts contain references to planetary periods and orbital characteristics that may correspond to actual outer solar system objects detected by modern surveys. Mesopotamian astronomical records include descriptions of celestial bodies with periods measured in thousands of years, corresponding to the orbital timescales expected for distant trans-Neptunian objects. The precision of these period calculations suggests access to observational data spanning multiple orbital cycles, requiring either extended observation programs lasting millennia or direct knowledge from sources possessing advanced astronomical capabilities. The mathematical sophistication required for calculating orbital periods of distant planetary objects exceeds the computational capabilities typically attributed to ancient civilizations. Yet the accuracy of preserved astronomical data suggests access to advanced mathematical techniques and extensive observational databases. The calculation of orbital mechanics for highly elliptical trajectories requires understanding of Keplerian dynamics and perturbation theory that weren't formally developed until modern celestial mechanics emerged. The preservation of this knowledge through various cultural transmission systems indicates sophisticated information storage and retrieval methods that maintained numerical accuracy across extended time periods. The correlation between ancient astronomical knowledge and modern planetary discoveries suggests either remarkable coincidence or preservation of actual observational data collected using advanced instrumentation. The consistency of orbital period calculations across different ancient cultures indicates shared access to astronomical databases that encompass detailed knowledge of outer solar system architecture. The accuracy of these calculations exceeds what could be achieved through naked-eye observation and theoretical speculation, suggesting direct measurement capabilities or information transfer from sources possessing superior astronomical instrumentation. The gravitational effects of Planet 9 could influence Earth's orbital dynamics in ways that create periodic variations in climate, magnetic field strength, and geological activity. The planet's massive gravitational field could modulate Earth's orbital eccentricity and obliquity cycles, creating long-term climate variations that correlate with the planet's orbital period. These gravitational influences could trigger ice ages, magnetic field reversals, and enhance volcanic activity during specific orbital phases when Planet 9's gravitational effects reach maximum intensity. The proposed orbital characteristics of Planet 9 suggest gravitational resonances with other solar system bodies that could amplify its effects on terrestrial phenomena. Resonant relationships between Planet 9 and the outer planets could create periodic alignment configurations that enhance gravitational influences on the inner solar system. These resonances could trigger cascading effects that influence solar activity, asteroid trajectories, and cometary orbits in ways that increase the probability of catastrophic events affecting Earth during specific orbital phases. The gravitational resonances that Planet 9 might create with other celestial bodies represent just one layer of evidence that has faced systematic suppression and restricted access within academic and governmental institutions worldwide. The pattern of concealment extends far beyond theoretical astronomical models into tangible archaeological discoveries, classified documents, and institutional policies that limit public access to potentially paradigm-shifting evidence. Archaeological sites across the globe operate under restricted access protocols that prevent independent researchers from conducting thorough investigations of anomalous artifacts and structures that challenge conventional historical narratives. The Giza Plateau in Egypt exemplifies this restrictive approach to archaeological investigation. The Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities maintains strict controls over excavation permits, limiting access to approved researchers who typically work within established theoretical frameworks. Independent researchers attempting to investigate anomalous features of the Great Pyramid, including the recently discovered void spaces revealed by cosmic ray muography, face bureaucratic obstacles that effectively prevent detailed analysis. The ministry's permit system requires extensive documentation of research objectives and methodologies, with approval processes that can extend for years while proposed investigations undergo multiple levels of review. Dr. Zahi Hawass, former Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, implemented policies during his tenure that severely restricted access to controversial archaeological sites and artifacts. Researchers proposing investigations that questioned conventional dating methods or suggested advanced ancient technologies found their permit applications rejected or indefinitely delayed. The discovery of the Osiris Shaft beneath the Giza Plateau, a complex underground structure featuring precisely cut granite chambers and sophisticated water management systems, remains largely inaccessible to independent researchers despite its potential significance for understanding ancient Egyptian construction capabilities. The underground chambers beneath the Sphinx have been subject to particularly restrictive access policies since their discovery through seismic surveys conducted in the 1990s. Ground-penetrating radar and seismic analysis revealed multiple chambers and tunnels extending beneath the monument, yet excavation efforts to explore these spaces have been repeatedly postponed or cancelled. Edgar Case's predictions about hidden chambers containing records of advanced ancient civilizations have generated significant public interest in these underground spaces, but official excavation efforts have yielded minimal public documentation of their contents or significance. Similar access restrictions affect archaeological sites throughout South America, where government agencies maintain tight control over excavation permits for locations containing megalithic structures that challenge conventional understanding of pre-Columbian capabilities. The Peruvian Ministry of Culture requires extensive justification for research proposals involving sites like Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo, with particular scrutiny applied to investigations questioning traditional Incan construction methods. Researchers proposing studies of the precision stone-cutting techniques evidenced at these sites often find their applications rejected on grounds of insufficient academic credentials or inappropriate research methodologies. The restricted zones around Machu Picchu encompass numerous unexplored structures and terraces that remain off-limits to researchers and tourists alike. Satellite imagery reveals extensive archaeological remains throughout the Sacred Valley that have never been systematically excavated or documented. The Peruvian government cites conservation concerns and indigenous rights as justification for these access restrictions, but the policies effectively prevent investigation of sites that might reveal advanced construction techniques or anomalous artifacts that contradict established archaeological narratives. Bolivia's restrictions on research at Tiwanaku and Pumapunku have intensified following discoveries of precisely machined stone blocks that challenge conventional understanding of pre-Columbian technological capabilities. The Bolivian National Institute of Archaeology maintains strict oversight of excavation activities, requiring detailed research proposals that undergo extensive review processes before approval. Independent researchers investigating the advanced stone-cutting techniques evidenced at these sites face particular scrutiny, with many permit applications rejected on grounds of insufficient institutional affiliation or inappropriate research objectives. The Vatican Secret Archives, officially renamed the Vatican Apostolic Archives in 2019, contain an estimated 85 kilometers of shelving housing documents spanning over 1,000 years of papal history. The archive's contents include diplomatic correspondence, theological treatises, and historical records that could potentially illuminate the Church's knowledge of ancient civilizations and extraterrestrial contact. Access to these archives remains severely restricted, with only a small number of qualified researchers granted permission to examine specific collections under strict supervision and time limitations. The archive's classification system divides materials into multiple access levels, with the most sensitive documents remaining completely sealed from public examination. Documents relating to the Inquisition, diplomatic relations with non-Christian civilizations, and investigations of unexplained phenomena remain largely inaccessible even to credentialed researchers. The Vatican's policies regarding document access have relaxed somewhat in recent decades, but materials that could challenge fundamental church doctrines or reveal knowledge of ancient advanced civilizations continue to face strict access restrictions. Cardinal José Tolentino de Mendonca, current prefect of the Vatican Apostolic Archives, has acknowledged that significant portions of the collection remain uncatalogued and unexplored even by Vatican researchers. The sheer volume of materials, combined with complex Latin and Greek texts requiring specialized translation skills, means that potentially significant documents may remain unexamined for decades or centuries. The archives contain materials confiscated from various religious orders, ancient libraries, and conquered territories that could include knowledge of advanced ancient technologies or contact with non-human intelligences. The Vatican's Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith maintains additional archives containing materials related to investigations of miraculous events, unexplained phenomena, and theological controversies that could bear on questions of ancient astronaut contact. These archives include reports from missionaries who encountered indigenous peoples with advanced astronomical knowledge, investigations of religious artifacts displaying anomalous properties, and correspondence regarding unexplained celestial phenomena observed throughout church history. Access to these materials remains even more restricted than the general apostolic archives, with examination permitted only for specific theological research purposes. The Smithsonian Institution has faced persistent allegations of suppressing archaeological discoveries that contradict established narratives of human development and ancient civilizations. The institution's policies regarding controversial artifacts and research findings have created an environment where discoveries challenging conventional archaeological models face systematic marginalization or exclusion from official collections and publications. Internal documents obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests reveal institutional bias against research proposing advanced ancient technologies or non-terrestrial influences on human development. The Smithsonian's handling of giant skeleton discoveries throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries exemplifies this pattern of suppression. Newspaper accounts from this period document numerous discoveries of human remains displaying unusual size and anatomical characteristics that could support accounts of the Nephilim or other hybrid beings described in ancient texts. Many of these discoveries were reportedly transferred to Smithsonian custody for further study, yet official institutional records contain no documentation of such specimens or their analysis. Researchers attempting to locate these materials within Smithsonian collections have been unable to find any trace of the reported giant skeleton discoveries. The institution's policies regarding Native American remains and artifacts, while ostensibly designed to protect indigenous cultural heritage, have also served to restrict access to materials that might challenge conventional understanding of pre-Columbian civilizations. The Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act requires museums to return certain artifacts and remains to tribal authorities, but the law's implementation has sometimes resulted in the removal of specimens displaying anomalous characteristics before adequate scientific analysis could be completed. Government UFO disclosure programs have revealed institutional knowledge of unidentified aerial phenomena that could relate to ancient astronaut evidence, while simultaneously demonstrating systematic efforts to control and limit public access to relevant information. The Pentagon's Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, established in 2020, acknowledged the existence of objects displaying flight characteristics that exceed known technological capabilities, yet the program's public disclosures represent only a small fraction of collected data on these phenomena. The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which operated from 2007 to 2012 under the direction of Luis Elizondo, investigated numerous encounters between military personnel and unidentified objects displaying advanced propulsion and maneuvering capabilities. Internal program documents obtained through FOIA requests reveal that AATIP researchers considered the possibility that some UFO encounters might represent contact with non-human intelligences possessing advanced technologies. However, the program's official reports carefully avoided explicit discussion of extraterrestrial hypotheses, instead focusing on potential national security implications of advanced aerospace technologies. The release of military videos showing unidentified objects performing maneuvers that violate known principles of aerodynamics has generated significant public interest in government UFO investigations, yet these disclosures represent carefully selected materials that avoid more controversial evidence. Military personnel who have reported encounters with objects displaying impossible flight characteristics often face career consequences and institutional pressure to avoid public discussion of their experiences. The systematic nature of these suppression efforts suggests coordinated policies designed to prevent public awareness of the full scope of government knowledge regarding advanced aerospace phenomena. The classification system used by intelligence agencies create multiple levels of secrecy that effectively compartmentalize information about UFO encounters and related phenomena. Materials classified under special access programs remain hidden even from members of Congress and senior military officials who lack specific authorization for access. The existence of UFO-related SAPs has been acknowledged by former government officials, but the contents of these programs remain largely unknown to researchers and the public. Academic resistance to alternative historical theories operates through peer review processes and institutional policies that systematically exclude research, challenging established archaeological and anthropological models. The peer review system, while designed to maintain scientific standards, often functions as a mechanism for suppressing innovative research that questions fundamental assumptions about human development and ancient civilizations. Researchers proposing investigations of ancient astronaut hypotheses or advanced ancient technologies face systematic rejection from mainstream academic journals and funding agencies. The editorial boards of major archaeological and anthropological journals typically include researchers whose careers are built on conventional theoretical frameworks, creating inherent bias against publications that challenge established models. Manuscripts proposing extraterrestrial influence on human development or advanced ancient technologies are often rejected without serious consideration, with reviewers citing lack of evidence while simultaneously blocking access to the very investigations that could provide such evidence. This circular logic creates an effective barrier against paradigm-shifting research within academic institutions. Funding agencies, including the National Science Foundation and National Endowment for the Humanities, maintain grant review processes that favour research proposals supporting established theoretical frameworks. Applications proposing investigations of anomalous archaeological sites or artefacts face systematic rejection, with review panels citing insufficient theoretical foundation or inappropriate methodological approaches. The funding system effectively prevents large-scale investigations of controversial archaeological sites, while supporting research that reinforces conventional narratives about human development. Academic tenure systems create additional barriers to innovative research by requiring faculty members to publish in mainstream journals and receive funding from established agencies. Researchers who pursue investigations of alternative historical theories risk career consequences, including denial of tenure, loss of institutional support, and exclusion from professional organizations. The academic reward system incentivizes conformity to established theoretical frameworks while discouraging the innovative thinking necessary for paradigm shifts in archaeological and anthropological understanding. Professional archaeological organizations maintain codes of ethics and standards that can be used to marginalize researchers pursuing controversial investigations. The Society for American Archaeology and similar organizations have established guidelines that emphasize adherence to established methodological approaches and theoretical frameworks. Researchers who deviate from these standards by investigating ancient astronaut hypotheses or proposing advanced ancient technologies may face professional sanctions, including loss of membership and exclusion from conferences and publications. The classification of certain archaeological discoveries under national security provisions has created additional barriers to public access to potentially significant evidence. Military installations and government facilities often contain archaeological sites that remain off-limits to civilian researchers due to security restrictions. The Nevada Test Site, for example, contains numerous archaeological sites, including petroglyphs and ancient structures that remain inaccessible to independent investigation due to ongoing security classifications related to nuclear testing activities. Corporate interests in maintaining established historical narratives have created additional pressures for suppressing archaeological discoveries that could challenge conventional understanding of ancient civilizations. Publishing companies, media organizations, and educational institutions have financial incentives to maintain consistency with established textbooks and educational materials, rather than supporting research that would require expensive revisions to existing content. The economic costs of acknowledging paradigm shifts in archaeological understanding create systematic resistance to evidence supporting alternative historical theories. International treaties and agreements regarding archaeological preservation often include provisions that restrict access to controversial sites and artifacts. UNESCO World Heritage Site designations, while intended to protect important archaeological locations, sometimes include access restrictions that prevent thorough investigation of anomalous features. The designation process itself can be influenced by political considerations that favour conventional interpretations of archaeological sites over investigations that might challenge established historical narratives. The cumulative effect of these various suppression mechanisms creates a systematic barrier against public access to evidence that could support ancient astronaut hypotheses or reveal advanced capabilities of ancient civilizations. The coordination between government agencies, academic institutions, and international organizations suggests deliberate policies designed to maintain conventional historical narratives while preventing investigation of evidence that could fundamentally alter understanding of human origins and development. The persistence of these suppression efforts across multiple decades and different political administrations indicates institutional commitment to controlling public access to potentially paradigm-shifting archaeological and historical evidence. The systematic suppression of archaeological evidence documented across governmental and academic institutions worldwide takes on profound significance when examined alongside ancient prophetic texts that describe the eventual return of the sky gods who once walked among humanity. These prophecies, preserved across multiple cultures and spanning thousands of years, display remarkable consistency in their descriptions of celestial beings returning during times of great technological advancement and global crisis. The precision of these ancient predictions, combined with mounting evidence of ongoing extraterrestrial presence in modern times, suggests we may be witnessing the fulfillment of prophecies that have guided human civilization for millennia. The Mesopotamian texts describe the Anunnaki's return as coinciding with humanity's achievement of specific technological milestones, including the ability to split the atom, travel beyond Earth's atmosphere, and manipulate genetic material at the molecular level. The Epic of Gilgamesh contains references to a time when humans would touch the heavens with metal birds and unlock the secrets held within the smallest particles of matter. These descriptions, written over 4,000 years ago, correspond remarkably to developments in nuclear physics and aerospace technology that emerged during the mid-20th century. The timing of these achievements aligns with the dramatic increase in UFO sightings that began during World War II and intensified throughout the Cold War period. The Sumerian king list concludes with prophecies describing the return of divine kingship when humanity reaches technological parity with their creators. The texts specify that this return will occur during a period of 3,600 years after the last departure of the Anunnaki, a time frame that places the predicted return in the early 21st century, according to most chronological interpretations. The prophecies describe advanced aerial vehicles appearing in increasing numbers as the return approaches, with initial contacts occurring through military and governmental channels before expanding to broader public awareness. Egyptian prophecies preserved in the pyramid texts describe the return of the Neteru during the Age of Revealing, when hidden knowledge would be uncovered and humanity would rediscover its true origins. The texts specify that this period would be marked by the opening of sealed chambers, the deciphering of ancient languages, and the discovery of technological artifacts that demonstrate advanced ancient capabilities. The recent discoveries of void spaces within the Great Pyramid, achieved through cosmic ray mereography, correspond precisely to these prophetic descriptions of hidden chambers being revealed through new detection methods. The Edfu building texts contain detailed prophecies describing the return of the followers of Horus during a time when Earth's magnetic field would weaken and climate patterns would shift dramatically. These ancient texts describe environmental changes that match current observations of magnetic pole migration and accelerating climate disruption. The prophecies specify that the returning beings would initially operate through intermediaries and technological manifestations rather than direct physical contact, maintaining plausible deniability while gradually preparing humanity for broader revelation. Hindu scriptures describe the return of the Devas during the transition from Kali Yuga to Satya Yuga, marking the end of the current age of darkness and the beginning of a new golden age of enlightenment. The Kalki Purana provides specific descriptions of advanced aerial vehicles appearing in Earth's skies during this transitional period, operated by beings possessing technology that appears miraculous to contemporary human observers. The text describes these vehicles as capable of instantaneous acceleration, silent flight, and the ability to appear and disappear at will, characteristics that match modern UFO reports with remarkable precision. The Mahabharata's descriptions of future events include prophecies about the return of divine beings who would assess humanity's spiritual and technological development before deciding whether to reveal themselves openly or continue operating covertly. These texts describe a testing period during which human governments would be contacted directly while the general population remained largely unaware of the extent of extraterrestrial presence. The prophecies indicate that full disclosure would occur only after humanity demonstrates sufficient wisdom to handle contact with advanced civilizations without descending into chaos or warfare. Biblical prophecies in the Book of Ezekiel describe the return of divine beings in vehicles that match modern UFO characteristics with extraordinary precision. Ezekiel's famous vision of wheels within wheels, containing living creatures with advanced knowledge and technology, provides technical details that correspond to contemporary UFO reports. The prophet describes vehicles capable of instantaneous movement in any direction, emitting brilliant lights and creating atmospheric disturbances that affect both weather patterns and electronic equipment. The timing of these events is linked to the restoration of Israel as a nation, which occurred in 1948, and the subsequent period of technological advancement and global communication. The Book of Daniel contains prophetic timelines that place the return of divine beings during the time of the end, when knowledge would increase dramatically and humanity would develop the capability for global communication and travel. Daniel's prophecies describe a 70-week period culminating in the revelation of hidden truths about human origins and the true nature of divine intervention in human affairs. Various interpretations of these timelines place this revelation period in the early 21st century, coinciding with the exponential growth of internet communication and the democratization of information that has enabled widespread discussion of ancient astronaut theories. The Dead Sea Scrolls contain additional prophetic materials describing the return of the Watchers during a period of great tribulation and technological advancement. The War Scroll describes aerial battles between forces of light and darkness, with advanced weapons and vehicles that exceed conventional military capabilities. These descriptions match modern military encounters with UFOs that display superior technology and appear to monitor human military activities with particular interest in nuclear weapons facilities. Native American prophecies from multiple tribal traditions describe the return of the Star People during the time of Great Purification, when Earth's climate would change dramatically and humanity would face existential challenges requiring intervention from advanced beings. Hopi prophecies specifically describe the appearance of a blue star that would herald the return of their ancestors from the sky. The prophecies indicate that initial contact would occur through selected individuals who would serve as intermediaries, preparing their communities for broader contact with extraterrestrial visitors. The Lakota prophecies describe the return of the Thunder beings, who would arrive in sky vehicles during a time when the sacred hoop of life would be broken by human technological excess. These prophecies describe environmental catastrophe and social upheaval that would necessitate intervention by advanced beings possessing the knowledge needed to restore balance to Earth's ecosystems. The timing of this return is linked to the completion of specific astronomical cycles and the alignment of celestial bodies that occurs approximately every 26,000 years. Mayan prophecies encoded in the Long Count calendar system describe the end of the current world age and the beginning of a new cycle of human development under the guidance of returning sky gods. The 2012 date that marked the end of the 13th Baktun was interpreted by some researchers as indicating the return of Kukulkan and other feathered serpent deities who originally established Mayan civilization. While dramatic changes didn't occur on the specific date, the period since 2012 has witnessed unprecedented disclosure of government UFO programs and acknowledgement of unidentified aerial phenomena by military and intelligence agencies worldwide. The consistency of return prophecies across geographically isolated cultures suggests either remarkable coincidence or shared knowledge of actual future events communicated by beings possessing advanced understanding of historical cycles and human development patterns. The specific technological markers described in these prophecies, nuclear weapons, space travel, genetic engineering, and global communication, represent capabilities that ancient humans couldn't have imagined without direct knowledge of technological development trajectories. The accuracy of these predictions indicates either prophetic inspiration or information provided by beings familiar with the long-term patterns of technological evolution. Modern UFO phenomena display characteristics that align remarkably with ancient descriptions of divine vehicles and their occupants. The wave of UFO sightings that began during World War II coincided with humanity's development of nuclear weapons and advanced aerospace technology, matching prophetic descriptions of increased celestial activity during periods of technological advancement. Military personnel at nuclear weapons facilities have reported numerous encounters with unidentified objects that demonstrated detailed knowledge of nuclear capabilities and appeared to conduct surveillance of weapons systems. The 1947 Roswell incident marked a significant escalation in reported UFO activity, occurring just 2 years after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Witness testimony and declassified documents suggest that military authorities recovered advanced technology and possibly extraterrestrial beings from the crash site, but official explanations attributed the incident to classified military projects. The timing of this event corresponds to prophetic descriptions of increased extraterrestrial monitoring following humanity's achievement of nuclear capabilities. The 1952 Washington, D.C. UFO incident involved multiple unidentified objects appearing over the nation's capital, tracked by radar systems and witnessed by air traffic controllers, pilots, and government officials. The objects demonstrated flight characteristics that exceeded contemporary aircraft capabilities, including instantaneous acceleration and the ability to hover motionless before departing at tremendous speeds. The incident prompted the largest press conference in Air Force history, but official explanations attributed the sightings to weather phenomena, despite radar evidence and multiple credible witnesses. The Belgian UFO wave of 1989 to 1990 involved thousands of witnesses reporting triangular objects with advanced lighting systems and silent propulsion. Belgian Air Force jets scrambled to intercept these objects' recorded radar signatures consistent with solid craft. But the objects demonstrated maneuverability that exceeded conventional aircraft by orders of magnitude. The Belgian military's open acknowledgement of these encounters and their inability to explain the object's capabilities marked a significant departure from traditional military secrecy regarding UFO incidents. The Phoenix Lights incident of 1997 involved a massive V-shaped object witnessed by thousands of people across Arizona, including government officials and law enforcement personnel. The object's size was estimated at over a mile in width, and it moved silently across populated areas while displaying a formation of lights that maintained perfect geometric alignment. Military explanations attributed the sightings to flares dropped during training exercises, but witness testimony and video evidence indicated a solid craft rather than separate illumination sources. Recent military acknowledgements of unidentified aerial phenomena have validated decades of witness testimony and radar evidence that previously faced official denial or debunking. The Pentagon's release of videos showing objects performing maneuvers that violate known principles of aerodynamics has confirmed that military forces regularly encounter technology that exceeds human capabilities. These objects demonstrate characteristics described in ancient texts, including instantaneous acceleration, right-angle turns at high speeds, and the ability to transition seamlessly between air and water environments. The 2004 USS Nimitz encounter involved multiple radar systems tracking objects that descended from altitudes exceeding 80,000 feet to sea level in seconds, demonstrating acceleration that would generate G-forces fatal to human occupants. Navy pilots who intercepted these objects reported technology that appeared to anticipate their movements and demonstrated awareness of human presence. The object's behavior suggested intelligence and purpose rather than natural phenomena or technological malfunction. Current space exploration efforts have revealed evidence that validates ancient knowledge of planetary characteristics and solar system architecture described in texts predating telescopic astronomy. Mars exploration has confirmed the planet's history of abundant water and potentially habitable conditions, matching ancient descriptions of the Red Planet as a former home of advanced civilization. The discovery of organic compounds and seasonal methane releases on Mars supports the possibility of past or present biological activity, lending credibility to theories of Martian origins for some aspects of human civilization. The search for extraterrestrial life has expanded dramatically with the discovery of thousands of exoplanets, many located within habitable zones where liquid water could exist. The Kepler Space Telescope and other instruments have revealed that planetary systems are common throughout the galaxy, with Earth-like worlds potentially numbering in the billions. These discoveries validate ancient astronomical knowledge that described multiple worlds harboring life, information that couldn't have been obtained through naked eye observation of the night sky. The James Webb Space Telescope's unprecedented infrared capabilities have revealed atmospheric compositions of distant exoplanets, including the detection of water vapor and other molecules associated with biological processes. The telescope's ability to analyze the chemical signatures of exoplanet atmospheres provides the tools necessary for detecting biosignatures that could indicate active biological processes on distant worlds. These capabilities bring humanity closer to confirming the existence of extraterrestrial life, potentially validating ancient claims of contact with beings from other worlds. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence continues to expand its monitoring capabilities and analytical techniques, processing vast amounts of radio and optical data for signals indicating artificial origin. The development of machine learning algorithms and advanced signal processing techniques has enhanced the ability to distinguish potential extraterrestrial communications from natural cosmic phenomena. While definitive signals have not been confirmed, the increasing sophistication of search methods makes the detection of extraterrestrial intelligence increasingly likely within the coming decades. The implications of confirming ancient astronaut theories would revolutionize human understanding of our origins, capabilities, and place in the universe. Technological implications include the possibility of reverse engineering advanced propulsion systems, energy generation methods, and material science that could solve current environmental and resource challenges. The anti-gravity technology described in ancient texts and apparently demonstrated by modern UFOs could transform transportation, construction, and space exploration in ways that would fundamentally alter human civilization. Spiritual implications encompass the need to reconcile religious beliefs with evidence of extraterrestrial contact and intervention in human development. Many religious traditions would require reinterpretation of their foundational texts and doctrines to accommodate evidence of ancient astronaut contact. However, many ancient texts already contain descriptions consistent with extraterrestrial visitation, suggesting that proper understanding of religious traditions might actually support rather than contradict ancient astronaut theories. Societal implications include the need to restructure educational systems, governmental institutions, and economic frameworks to accommodate radically expanded understanding of human origins and capabilities. The revelation that human civilization developed with extraterrestrial guidance would necessitate fundamental changes in how societies organize themselves and relate to other cultures and species. The knowledge that we are not alone in the universe and have never been alone would represent perhaps the most significant paradigm shift in human history. The convergence of ancient prophecies, modern UFO phenomena, and advancing space exploration capabilities suggests that humanity stands at the threshold of the most significant revelation in our species' history. The systematic suppression of evidence documented throughout governmental and academic institutions may reflect preparation for controlled disclosure rather than permanent concealment. The gradual release of military UFO videos and acknowledgement of unexplained aerial phenomena could represent the initial stages of a carefully managed revelation process, designed to prepare humanity for broader contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. As we advance deeper into the 21st century, the accumulation of evidence supporting ancient astronaut theories continues to mount, while traditional barriers to investigation gradually erode. The democratization of information through internet communication has enabled global discussion of suppressed evidence and alternative theories that were previously marginalized by institutional gatekeepers. The convergence of ancient wisdom and modern discovery points towards an imminent revelation that will fundamentally transform human understanding of our origins, our capabilities, and our destiny among the stars. The return prophecy may not describe a future event, but rather the ongoing process of rediscovering truths that have been hidden in plain sight throughout human history, waiting for the moment when our species would develop sufficient wisdom and technological capability to rejoin the galactic community from which we originally came.